maybe just to pick from where we stopped, I can see majority of you were there yesterday. So as we start it off, and I would ask maybe just one person to just take a minute and tell us what they learned yesterday in our topic of communication and influence. Just 1 minute as a recap of what we learned yesterday, just for the benefit of the people who may be joining for the first time today. You could just tell us what we learned, what you took home in that presentation we did for the last 3 hours yesterday. Kindly. Any volunteer? You could just kindly unmute and tell us what you took home. Darshan, you are there? Would you want to tell us something of what we picked yesterday?
Yes, we learned about communication. We learned about staff who we are working with are our internal clients, as much as they are not in the, like they may not be bringing the profits to our company, but as colleagues, we are still required, actually more required to attend to them because they could have gone to seek help elsewhere. We also learned that when we are communicating, we respect the dignity of everybody, that those who may be in the lower card of the organization chain are still human beings and part of us. And so we should never be spiteful of anyone. We learned that we learned about empathy in communication, that people should know that you are listening to them, that you are attentive. If you are busy, you have to explain that you are busy and maybe make for another time. We were very much challenged that if we meet together and we remove our title and we have to introduce ourselves, then without our organization, what else are we? We have to upscale, find something to do. We can start with our own organization, or before we think of going outside. We were challenged also. We learned a lot of things. If maybe our other colleagues can also help me.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Sharon, you had unmuted yourself before he started speaking. Did you want to say something, Sharon? I know you were there yesterday. Kindly proceed. Sharon? Her mic is unmuted. Can you hear her?
No.
No. Sharon, we can't hear you. Or probably someone else, as she's trying to work on her mic. Does anyone want to tell us something? Joshua, were you there? I can see your camera is on. Were you there yesterday?
I was there in the training yesterday.
Yeah, tell us what you picked, whether it's just one sentence.
In terms of yesterday's topic,
yes,
especially in the sense when you are presenting about emotional intelligence, I think much focus was in terms of peers and senior management, and less was concentrating on our subordinates. And in my opinion, I think it also works well, absolutely well, in terms of how we handle our subordinates.
Okay. That is very brilliant. Thank you. So that gives me comfort that we were following, we were together. And apart from the wordings and the many wordings of the slides, there are lessons that we picked along the way. And that's what learning is all about, that there's something that was significant that you picked, there's something that challenged you, and there's something that you'll take to your life and also the workplace. That is very good. Thank you. And with that, I think I want us to start on change management, because I think we have enough ground to cover compared to the other slide. I think this is one of the longest. Of course, it's full of pictorials. And yeah, Esther is saying, sorry, I can hear you now. Esther, did you want to tell us something before I lock you and we change our gears? I think she had a problem with her mic. That's okay. That's okay. I think she was just confirming that you're able to hear me clearly. So today we are going to look at change management. And it's good it's coming after we did our communication and how we influence. And partly we saw that change is inevitable. And we saw this even when we came to look at issues of the changes in the workplace, the changes in our external environment that force us to come back to our workplaces and also review our policies. So we say there are times that we find ourselves as HR, but we have to relook at our HR policies. We have to make some changes, adjustments, and we actually talked about how to communicate this kind of change. So on that gear, it's where we want to pick and look at what are some of, now we learned about communication, we've learned about where to strategically position ourselves. Now we come to change management skills, because you learn that we talked about being an internal consultant. There is the bit of you that you have to also have the skills we talked about, project management, because being at the heart of the business, then you become a key driver to change. And any activities that have to happen in the workplaces, which are major shift to what we are doing, then change comes. And we also, from what we have learned, we know change, as much as it is inevitable, the way it comes, it has a lot of influence on the people. And how it affects, of course, it could be a change of the system, a change of the policy, a change of the leadership, or there's something that the organization want to reevaluate themselves and change. So these changes actually affect people, and how we handle the whole process of change determine the success or the outcome. Because for any changes that comes in the workplace, mostly we are looking at improving our processes, improving our business, re-engineering how we do things. And at times changes can also happen because of some other drastic issues, like the time of COVID. Of course, that was not for improvement, but it came at the end of it, because depending on how we manage these changes, then there's some, when we saw at the end of the pandemic, there were a lot of improvement that we saw. We can see that now we can even easily adapt to the technology advancement. Now we are able to have a lot of online meetings, online courses, hybrid working system. We can also be able to work from home. Those things were not so common in our workplaces before the COVID. So it had a silver lining. So again, in your personal life, I'm sure we have encountered a lot of changes. People have lost jobs, people have been demoted, people have gone through a process. So it affects the psychology of the people who are going in. And as HR, now we become change agents, and we become advisors or internal consultant in the entire process. Because for us in the human resource, we understand the emotions of the people. We are the people who've been trusted with the issue of the people. And as we move through the motions, we want to see how we can be able to navigate our institutions into embracing change so that we have the desired outcome. So let's just continue. So in terms of the coverage of what we're going to look at, we are going to understand what the change process look like. We're also going to look at several change management models. And I know as most of you who have done CHRP may have done a course in change management and looked at some of these model, may it be even in the counseling course, you may have come maybe across some of these models that we are going to look at. And we are also going to look at how do we apply the change management skills and what are some of these skills that we need to prepare ourselves with. Then we want to see how we handle this change in the workplaces and in what nature and in what manner it comes, how it affects employees, the workplaces, how it affects the senior management and the place of HR in that. We also want to see the kind of preparation that goes into when you actually know there is a pending change that is coming, how you can come up with a change, what we call a change strategy, what are some of the components, what are the ingredients that you should put in your plan. We'll look at that. Then we'll also look at how we can communicate change and understanding the obstacles that are there for change that may actually limit how well change is, and also the results of that change, the outcome. Because you'll find there are some people who will be ready for change. There'll be change drivers. There are those also who will be resisting this change. What are some of the obstacles within our structures, our organization, and our environment that could influence this change process, either positively or negatively? So we will look at both sides of the coin. Then we are also going to look at how we can drive performance improvement through change, and also how we as HR can be able to stimulate positive change in people management of how we manage our people. And then we'll also look at becoming an employee champion and change agent in terms of managing this organization. Because mostly you might find yourself when we have big projects happening, then you as the HR person, you are picked as the change of that particular project. So we should be able to prepare ourselves for that. So let's look at change and ask, what is change? Basically, what is change? Let me hear from anybody. You can put that on your comments. What do you think change is? Is it good? Is it bad? Can you prepare for it? What are some of the examples of organizational change that you have gone through or you have experienced in your organization? Why is change actually important in life? Then give us some of the examples of changes it could be in your personal life, it could be in your workplaces, or it could be a whole institutional shift. It could also be a national shift. And what is your opinion about these changes, and how and why do we need to really talk about change? You can answer any of that question. Give us an example. What is your understanding of change? What is the organizational change? And what is your opinion about this whole thing? And relying on that picture that I've put. You can put that in your comment on the chat, or you can just unmute. I said I normally love interactive classes so that we can see where we are coming from. And everything we learn also, we bring it to the personal level. Yes, Tabitha.
Oh, good morning, Rhoda.
Good morning.
My name is Tabitha. And probably I want to touch on change and some of the examples of change in at workplace.
Yes.
So changes could be good and bad, Rhoda. And
yes.
Maybe an example of change is when we had the COVID and people had to change. I work in a school, and changing people to do the virtual classes was it was very dicey for us, and because learning had to continue, and the hiccups of internet and having to maintain the studies for the students, for the learners. So, of course, for us, it was a bit of a challenge, but at the end of it all, like you said, it has given us an eye opener. Like everything is doable now with the virtual, and nothing can stop now. So I think that is one of the biggest changes that I've seen in my most recent years. Yeah.
That is great. And you
Yeah.
could imagine, even for us in HR, the kind of panic when you are being told to call for the first meeting and you're thinking you have almost 500 employees all spread across the country or different regions. How are we going to do a virtual meeting, a town hall meeting? There was panic. I can imagine even in the schools. Now teachers, some of them don't know how to use the laptop. All of a sudden you have to prepare content, and some were used to writing on the whiteboard and training people physically. So even for us, the trainers, we stayed for a lot of time without having trainings, because there was this social distancing, there was no travel. By the time the academy had to really wake up and capitalize on its learning management system and learn how to do these things virtually, and everything was coming. So Tabitha, that's a very good example. And I think school is one of the people complained. People could not go to school. They could not socialize. But there are those who have won the benefits.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that is how it has happened. And the shift was good, I can say. But like I said, it had a few hiccups and teething problems, but learning did not stop in the school.
Yeah.
So it was amazing. It was amazing. Thank you, Rhoda, for the opportunity.
Thank you. I can see Cliff is saying process through which something is done in a different way is what change means for him. Then let me just read some comments on the chat. And Gershon is saying change is to make different, to replace with something better, to modify. At times it's not always better, as Tabitha has said. It could be a change, especially like you have even lost a loved one. That is drastic change. Then you are put into those big shoes. You don't know how to fit into them. You have lost a job. You don't know how the future looks for you. But then along the way, then you get a better, even a better job. So these things happen. So did I put someone else? There are still chats coming in. Esther is saying to modify. It can be positive or negative. Change is inevitable, especially in business and in organization due to economic change, among others. Yes, Tabitha has given as an example how they were able to navigate change in their work, in their organization, which is an education institute, and how they had to do a total overhaul. So for us, we have what we call the past. What is in the past? What is historical? We went through. We look at it from a rare mirror. It is in our past. Then there's what we have in the present. If you look at that, the box that I've put there, presence is where we are now. It is what we can see so clearly. It is clear to us. We are used to do the way we do things. But then when change comes in, of course, we went through change to come from our past to the present. But then why change, it is very difficult for everyone, is because now we are trying to move from the present status that we are, the status quo, what we know, what we are comfortable with, our comfort zone, and then we are looking at a future which is uncertain, and we're asking ourselves, what does the future look like? What does the future hold for us? So we are very uncertain about the future. We don't know whether it will be good. We don't know whether even what we are trying to do, whether it will work for us. Even when you are in school, you are wondering, I'll spend a lot of years, 4 or 5 years in school. Will I get a job? What kind of a job will I get? Am I sure I'll be able to do that? So the present is very comfortable and is very clear to us. But the future, of course, we have these aspirations, like if I do this, I could improve the future. But then it comes with forms of uncertainty. We don't know how it will come. So that is why we find change is very difficult. So we say it is a journey. It is not an event that something comes and happens. Change process, it's a whole journey. And it has a lot of impact on us in our lives because it involves sometimes joy, but most of the time, change comes with pain. It comes with shock. It comes with denial, where even when we begin changing maybe the system or the way we do things, there's always looking back to what we are living. And you say, what if this doesn't work? They were also in denial. I think what we were doing was much better than where we are. I'm sure even in your organization, you've had a lot of employees say, when we had the other CEO, life was better. Before our organization grew to be this big, we used to do this, we used to do this, we used to do, life was good, we were cohesive, we were a team, but now we feel diluted, we no longer do this. So those are denials because of the pain, because of the shock that comes with it, and also the resistance to change. We also see that change involves desire to control and adapt to the circumstances. So you want to control what you have in terms of the pest. You want to have a control that you want to have a certain, you want to be certain about the future, which is very difficult. You can be very sure if I do this, this will happen, but you cannot say it and confirm it with 100% certainty. So there's that desire to control and to adapt and to think that you know, which brings the issue of the emotional turmoil and the psychological effect on the matters of change. Then we can also say it also involves action to respond to change. That for change to happen, we have to act in a certain way. We have to change the way we do things. Of course, we may be sure, but not 100% certain, but it calls for action. You cannot have a successful change if actually all what you do is to think about it and to dream. It calls for action. It calls for some effort and responsibility and some level of accountability from us. So can it be predicted and can it be managed? Do you think change can be predicted? Some can be predicted, others can't. Nobody predicted COVID. But at some level, and especially in our organization, at times we can predict. Can it be managed? Yes, it can be managed. And the main skill that we need to learn, it is how to manage the change process. Someone to respond to me and tell me, can it be predicted? What are some of the things that you can predict that can happen? That it is a probability for it to happen in your organization that might affect you? Anyone, just unmute. Something that you can predict in your workplace that is likely to happen. It doesn't have to happen, but you predict there is a possibility, whether very remote, at 10%, at 20%, at 90%, that it is likely to happen.
One of them is maybe a go-slow or a strike within the organization.
Yes, there is a high chance, there is a probability that you can, as much as you say you don't like this area of industrial relations, a strike can happen in your organization. There can be a go-slow from the employee, and an employer can also lock you out. Your organization could also wind up as well.
Okay.
Esther?
I was actually going to talk about that there's a possibility that your position could be scraped off or just be done away with.
Yes, you could be declared redundant.
Yeah.
Yes, we are HR. Are you likely to, we are the people who are in charge of the whole disciplinary process, aren't we? Are you likely to sit on the other side one day? You're the one who is always taking minutes. Is there a possibility?
Yes.
There is a possibility. So those are some of the things. So it can be predicted. It's only at times that we don't want to think about it. Some can be predicted, others cannot be predicted. But how we manage change determines the outcome. Regardless, the only thing I think you can change is something like death. When someone is gone, it's gone. But probably the pain you go through and the mourning you go through can even be a wake-up or a defining moment for you, and you become a better person. Have we seen spouses whose, have we seen people whose spouses have passed on, and after passing on, they even become much stronger because they have now to fight harder. They know they have no shadow to hide behind, and they redefine themselves. Have we seen those? Of course, it takes a lot of time, a lot of shock, a lot of effort, but there's always a silver lining when we come to change. So let's see. So we say change management is actually a structured process of implementing operational. It could be technological. It could be a change of strategy, or a mission changes in an organization. And its main mission is to achieve a desired outcome for employees to adapt the change and apply it in their everyday work. So if you look at the wording, the main purpose why we are studying this is for any change that we come across in our life, in our organization, we want to achieve a desired outcome or the best outcome that is possible out of that situation. And we want the employees or the people who are going through the change process, because there are some people probably here, their side hustle, they want to become counselors. Or even in our organization, we'll also be dealing with employees who have gone through very drastic changes, and we have to console with them and we have to counsel them. So we want to have the best desired outcome for employees, and also for them to be able to adapt to that change and also to apply it in our everyday work. So fast forward, we say, here are some of the reactions that we can get from people when change is happening. One of it, we can see we can have people saying, here are some of the thoughts that might be expressed by someone passing through bad news. We said it can be good or bad. One is denial. Someone is saying, oh no. It can be true. You must be joking. You cannot be meaning that person. This cannot happen. This can only happen to someone else, not you. You cannot be serious. Can we sort this in some other way? Because it can't be this. That is it. After 20 years of service, they now want me to. Do you think this person is saying serve a higher position? Probably is what we were saying. That is it. After 20 years of service, they want me now to move to which department do you fear most? Records department? Admin? Finance? With all my skills? With all that I've given them? You can complete those dotted lines. Am I going to be part of this? Probably there is a declaration of a redundancy. And every staff are asking, there are reorganization, people are being transferred, people are doing this. Then what is going through the employee's mind? Am I going to be part of this? Do you think I'm likely to be affected? Yes. Then there's that person who can say, yes, I can live with this. It's not bad really, because probably you have prepared yourself already, knowing change is inevitable. This is likely to happen to you, and you say, I've seen others done it. Yes, I think I have what it takes. I can live with this. It is not bad. It's not every situation that is bad, as we may want to see it. Then why is change important to individuals? We say when leaders or managers are planning to manage change, there are 5 key principles that need to be kept in mind. You as a HR leader. The first principle is, like, different people react differently to the same change. An occurrence can happen, a redundancy can happen, and even when we are giving the VER, there are people who will come running and say, can I be part of this? Can you include my name with this? So people react differently to the same change or to the same occurrence. Even when you look at our families and maybe there is something, a calamity has happened, even in the workplaces, there are those people who go into a panic mode and they lock. And they are not even able to. Even in terms of mourning, there are those people who don't even react until probably after the burial. And then they have what we call the deferred mourning. That after everybody has mourned and you thought they have put themselves together, they break down. So one principle we need to remember is different people react differently to change. So we need to unpeel the onion and look at what are the biggest fears, what are the underlying issues, why do people react this way? And maybe categorize the people on how to manage each of these categories. Number 2 is everyone has fundamental needs that have to be met. What is in it for them? So everyone has their need that have to be met. Is it the fear? Is it the knowledge gap that they fear now if we automate this process, they have no computer skills? So what is their need? Do they need to upskill? Do they need to be trained? There are those also who feel they have really mastered and they have held other people's captive with this system. Because for this system to work, this person has to be there. So they feel probably they're going to lose the control. So what are the needs of each and every person that is going through that change? That principle, change often involves a loss. You lose what is in the present What you're holding, what you can see so clearly, it involves a loss. For any change to occur, there must be a loss and probably a gain. And whether it is a good process and in its improvement, there is an aspect of a loss. What we are used to, things were working, things were flowing, you could work faster, you took a lot of time to take yourself through this training, then suddenly there is a change. Even when a promotion comes, you lose the comfort, the status quo, what you are used to, the team that you're working with, and now you have to move to work to another team. So, and people go through what we call the loss curve. And this is where we'll come, one of the models that we are going to look, it is a grieving curve, how people grieve. And we will see how people go through the loss curve by denial, by the time they come up to acceptance, and then they start picking from there. The fourth principle, expectations need to be managed realistically. And we say realistically because people could have expectations that are beyond what you can do. So all the expectations, don't overpromise people, don't lie to people. If you know there are going to be obstacles, their limitation is going to be slow, it's going to be painful, it is going to be massive. Of course, as much as we try to reassure people, their expectations and how we respond to them, it must be realistic and what is objective and real. And the fifth principle, fear have to be dealt with because people fear change. Then how do we deal with fear? We look at all this when you go to the model, which is where I want to put a lot of time. So as a continuation, we say change management issues need to be clear at the start of the project. What is likely to happen? You remember, as we are discussing about the policy changes, we say you need to explain to the people what triggered this change in the policy. What is it that brought us to this place that there is need to change? Is it a change of the CBA? Is it the legal framework? What does it entail? What is the extent? So before you start the project, it is good that we clear what are the objectives and what are the activities that go into it. What do we plan to do? What are the different roles that need to be played by the people? And what are the key responsibilities that can be established? That is very key. So here are some of the key issues that we need to address for you to start a change process, especially in the organization. You must be able to tick your checkbox and see, is there a compelling need? What are the triggers? Is everything working? Are we working optimally? Or is there a compelling need that pushes to need? Probably everything is working, but the environmental, the environmental landscape, the competition, the technological advancement is likely to overtake us if we don't change. So you need to look at what is the compelling need, and it needs to be very clear. Then, who are the owners and sponsors of this change? Because most of this change, we just come to be the change champions or the change managers in the organization, but you'll find that these changes come from different functions and departments of the organization. So who are these owners? Is it the IT department? Is it the business department? Is it the core system, the core department? Where is this change originating from? And every change process must have an owner. And who are the sponsors? Because it will come with the cost. They are the people who are likely to support, who are the sponsors in the whole of this change process. And will they actively promote the change and apply pressure as needed for people to be able to transition, or they'll just bring a change and leave it to the doors of the HR to navigate with it? So they need to understand their change owners, who are the sponsors, and they need to promote it and to apply pressure and to walk the whole journey with the people. Then, who are the populations that are likely to be involved? Is it all the staff? Is it a particular department? Is it a particular grade? If we say we are declaring redundancy, is it across the board or maybe a particular department? When we say we are going to have a reorganizational change, is it likely to affect all the functions, or is it just likely to shake the senior management? We've seen organizations that are changing where they have done a total overhaul of the senior management. Maybe people have been transferred, they have moved, all that. what is the scope and what are the people who are likely to be involved? And then we also have to look at how can we encourage them to act in a way which support the project objectives. So this is what we want to achieve at the end of the project, and how do we encourage them? Because we have to speak to the people's mind, the willpower, so that they're able to actually support the project without coercion. It is because they want to see the other side of success, how it looks like. Then what styles of participation will work best? How do we want to involve people? Is it bottom up or is it top down? And we need to look at communication in that aspect. What is the management philosophy? What is the leadership philosophy? And that is why HR is very core, because they need to be in the trenches with people to explain and also to get their feedback, because there are feedbacks that will come along the way. How do we handle those feedbacks? How do we handle the fears? How are people going to be involved so that there is ownership of the whole process? And how can we communicate these messages to the target population that is likely to be affected? So let's see in two ways. Why do organizations need to change? The first thing, to create what is not there. So this is maybe driven by a vision that the organization want to take a different strategy, or there is a different roadmap they want to take, so that they are able to maybe capture a different clientele. They want to do things differently. We had the example of the education learning system, where they now wanted to do trainings online. Of course, we saw a lot of cases being filed in court, especially from the high-end schools and the international schools, the high-end, where parents were up in arms because the schools were charging them maybe the same amount of tuition that they used to pay during the physical classes. Now it's time for COVID. And the parents were like, no, we didn't sign this agreement. The schools now are charging. And there were a lot of court cases that went. Of course, there are a lot of things that were looked at. So one of the main reasons why organization change is to create what is not there. Something new, triggered by technology, triggered by the needs of the market, and it could be a change of the vision. The other reason why organization need change, maybe they have looked at the way they do things, and there is that desire to improve what is already there. So it is determined by the market forces and the kind of things that happens around. And then when is organization change inevitable? Of course, there are those changes that we said we can avoid, but there are those that are really, really inevitable. And we are going to look at what we call the greater equation. And some of the things, or the checklist that he has put, that number one is the organization dissatisfaction, or it could also be a personal dissatisfaction. Are you happy with the status quo? Are you happy with where you are? Are you contented? Do you think that you have reached your apex? Are you operating at your optimal? Or do you feel there is some opportunity, especially when you do a SWOT analysis? Are there opportunities that you can see? Are there strengths that you can see that you have not optimized? So that's what we call the organization dissatisfaction, and it uses the abbreviation over D. So if you find there is some dissatisfaction level, then it triggers the desires to change. Then how do you look at the future? I asked yourselves, how do we want to retire? Where do we see ourselves in the next 1 to 5 years? So your vision, with a clarity of your vision of the future, then that is a sign that you need to change. Then the third parameter he has used is the possibility of immediate tactical action, or the 5 steps. Of course, you see how the future looks like. You are not contented with your status quo. You feel there's some room for improvement. Then is there something you can do about it? That is the third question. If there is a possibility of immediate action or steps that can easily be taken, then change becomes inevitable. And the fourth one, it is actually, now he derives the formula and say, of course, all this, nobody wants to leave their comfort zone. There is that resistance. You say, hey, that might be too risky. I think if I was to make a career move, I don't know how that institution is, it might be worse off. I'm not sure whether the pasture is green on the other side. So there is that fighting that goes on within you, or if it's in an organization, they are the resistance of the people who are against that change. So according to Richter, he says, when your dissatisfaction level, your vision of the future, and the possibility of having tactical or immediate actions or steps that can be taken, if that is greater than the resistance to change, then it is you are ready for change. The organization change becomes acceptable and inevitable, even in your personal life. If you see, I'm unhappy about this place that I'm working in, I'm happy that I'm not able to get growth in my position. Probably you've just been moving from one position to another. You don't feel like there is any growth. All you are changing is the organization. That is an aspect of dissatisfaction. If there is a very high turnover of staff, and you feel if this trend of the staff turnover continue with those low retention rate, then it is likely to affect our operational and also our performance. Is there a possibility that there's something that can be done? Are there benefits that you can introduce probably from the survey you've taken? Are there viable steps that you think they are available? And of course, there will be the resistance to change. No, that is not sustainable. It's not affordable. So when the dissatisfaction, that vision, the possibility of actionable points is greater than the resistance, then change becomes acceptable. And change management, we want to look at what we call the change management iceberg, for those who have gone through the iceberg. And what it says, most of the management staff actually just see what is on top of an iceberg. And we normally see maybe just 10%, a tip of an iceberg in an ocean is what is visible from the bare eyes. So they look at the cost, the quality, and the time. So when they go through a change management process, that is all what they see. What is the cost of what you're proposing? What is the quality? How is it likely to maybe to change the turnaround? And also, how long will that change process look at? If I tell you, you need to do a culture change process in your organization, the next thing you'll ask, or the management will be concerned, how much are you likely to charge us? And then if we do a culture change, what are we likely to get as the benefits? We are likely to serve more clients. People are likely to be happy, improve the performance. So you only look at the quality. And then how long is the process? You want a process that Rhoda will tell you within a week, within a month, we can see a whole change of the whole culture. That is not possible because it's a whole journey. It's a whole process. So that's what the change management iceberg see. And that is where most of the managers or the leaders look like. Or maybe when they're looking at any change, but there are 90% of things that goes through the change management. It is where now as HR, we should be able to have that change management skill so that you can be able to deal. There are issues of acceptance. Is it likely to be accepted by people? And what does acceptance entail? Of course, among the many employees you have, at the high level of acceptance, there are those people you know they'll be the promoters of your change and they're likely to promote. Of course, within that, there are people with fears. There are people who will be on the opposite side. You have people who are opposing, the opponents of change process. Of course, and the most sensitive people is the people who are in the middle. They have not accepted and they have not opposed. So they're just somewhere here. So we want to convert majority of these people to come from the opponents to be the promoters of the change. There are people who are not speaking, but they are hiding there as opponents. Wacha tuone where they will go. It is not likely to fail. And this is the worst because you'd rather have the people who are opposing direct and you know they're already in this category and you're trying to convert them. But there are those hidden opponents. There are those people who are yet to make up their mind. We call them the potential promoters. Of course, change, we want to see how to just to navigate. Of course, the people who are opposing this, they'll have a negative attitude. They are just negative. They want the whole. Of course, the people in the middle, it is how you manage them so that you can propel them into the positive attitude and also the acceptance. Of course, what is the management perception of what you're proposing? What are their beliefs? What is the organizational culture? What is the philosophy? You need to deal with those attitudes that come. And also, how do people behave towards or react towards it? There are, of course, the power plays that are in our organization. There are politics that comes in, and how do we manage? So how do we manage the attitudes and the perception of the people? And how do we manage the politics that comes with it? And also the power plays. So that is when you see that the change management process is actually about how we are going to get there from point A to point B. How do we navigate this change so that we move from where we are, the unforeseen, or we don't know what the future looks like, what it holds for us, the process and how the journey we walk is what is very critical. So change management is basically about how we get there. It's about how we navigate the journey. It is how we plan, how we design the components of the change program, how we manage the implementation of the programs that we have, the processing of the change, how we want to have as much stability as possible with a minimal disruption. And we also want to, of course, it is going to come with losses. There are disruptions because change is disruption, but we want to maximize the benefits, the gains of the whole process, that at the end of the journey, we can say, yes, it has been a very difficult journey, but we can still look back, it was worth the sweat. It was worth every pain. It was worth every effort. Then the other thing we say is continuously monitoring progress and fine-tuning the change journey as required. Change management, what is the end goal at the end of it? We want to reduce the productivity loss, because as you navigate the change with the loss, the disruption, with people going through the loss curve, of course, the performance it is going to reduce. So where we want to have a proper management process is we want to reduce the productivity loss and the loss of time, the loss of what is likely to happen. We also want to avoid employees turnover, because there are people who will resign, who will give up on the way. They will leave the project and say, instead of being part of this, me, I've worked in an organization that I can see it failed. So I'm not going to wait for this to come, just back and go. So we want to have as maximum retention of employees who are engaged, who are performing at the same time. Again, our main goal is to eliminate any adverse impact of the change on the customers, because we agreed as HR, we are serving the business goals in the organization. And they are the customers, mostly the external customers that we serve. Is it the public? I don't know how maybe a change of the process when you want to close something, how it affects the people you serve, because once they are negatively impacted, they are likely even to move to your competitors. They are likely to actually even raise a lot of complaints, hues and cries. So we want to eliminate the damage that actually it's damage mitigation of what is likely to happen. And then we also, the ultimate goal is we want to achieve what we have desired to achieve in terms of the outcome at the end of the period. Of course, when you come to the change management process, I normally tell people as HR, we wear two hats. One, you are an employee of that organization. Whether you are hired as a HR director, by the time the first thing and the first line of interaction with the organization is the employment contract. You've been hired as an employee of that organization, then you're hired at that role. So there is what we call individual change management. You'll also find that even when you're navigating the change management process in the organization, as much as you're the employee to your other leaders, the management, the client, you're also being affected by that change. People assume HR are, oh, okay, we are not being affected. We don't have the wrath of it and the adverse effects of it. One, we are employees. This change, it's going to affect the way we do things, because then we have to put a lot of energy, a lot of time into managing people's change. So when you look at it from an individual perspective, change, it normally happens from bottom up. You are in a perspective or a position where you want to see it is us who are driving change. We should be telling the management, we are the people on the trenches. We know why the system, we know the pain point. We need to be heard. They should listen to us. They should take our input. That's how individuals and employees look at it. Then it is all about employees' perspective, what they think is right. So there's that tough balance. But from an organizational level, it is top, bottom. It is us in leadership to guide people, to navigate them, to tell them what is good for them. And then it is all about the management perspective. It's all about the organization perspective at the end of the day. So individual change management, employees' perspective, They focus on daily operations. They say we are the ones who are dealing with the clients. We are the people who knows what the complaints have been. We are the people who have been using the system and we know their efficiency. We are the people who know whether we are happy or not. We are the people who are driving our careers. So mainly on that kind of a focus, employees most of the time do not know all about the business issues because they just look at, yes, I wake up, go to work, A2, but probably they have not looked at the sustainability, the long run, the strategic vision of the organization, and what is the feel and that need. So they don't have all the information. And mostly, they'll not know why the change is being made. Hii ni kitu ililetwa na CEO. It is the new CEO. It is the new HR. Hii ni maneno amekuja nayo. So from the employees' view, they are not even aware why we have to change. We've been okay. We've been here for decades. Then they are not as accountable as the people who are the vision carriers, the people sitting in the leadership position, because for them, they just need to roll with the boat. But for you, people in the responsibility, you are accountable. You have been assigned a responsibility, and that affects how you work. Of course, the primary concern is to know how the change will impact on them as an individual and a personal level. But from a manager's perspective, or what you call organization, because managers work for the organization, managers, the C-suite, the ESCO, the people who sit in leadership, we are in a better position because we know the strategy. Employees may not know the strategy. Maybe we are the people who came up with the strategy and we say, this is where we want to be in the next 5 years. So we have that clarity of the vision, of the strategy, and the plan of the organization. And we are in a better position to even understand the external landscape, the legal framework, the changes that are happening. That is when we go and now we sensitize employees. So we want to close this gap of this awareness that is sitting at the organization level and the management level with the individual. That is the role, and we are the center as HR. So managers have awareness of the larger context, be it the environmental, because they have the SWOT analysis, they're accountable, they have to take action. For them, change is not an option. By the time you leave that boardroom, we already have responsibility. HR, we want you to go and draw a memo and communicate to the employee. We want you to set up this. So for us, people sitting in the management, we have to take action because it has been agreed and there is no turning back. Then we are also result-oriented because for any meetings that we are going to have, you will come back and report, yes, I issued tick, because we have those implementation matrix. So you want to achieve as much as possible with minimum damage and with the desired results. As a result, we have result-oriented. Then we weigh return on investment on comparison with other strategic initiatives. So of course, time cost is of essence. Improvement, because someone has walked us through the journey and told us if we change the way we do things, we are likely to have more motivated employees, higher return, we are going to achieve our objectives and the strategy. So the return on investment in the entire change process is very critical for the manager or for the organization. Of course, the primary concern of the people in the leadership is the time frame of effecting this change. We need it as soon as possible. The financial outcome, we want to use the minimum resources, investment required. What are we likely to invest and what is the return of that investment? And then the impact of the change on the customers that we are serving or the people that we are there for, the mission of the organization. So change management process, we want to bring the individual concern, the management, and we want to marry. It is just like having your individual goals and individual maybe plans, and then the organization. So how do we merge? We are going to understand this process because we said it is a journey. How do we navigate the journey? So let's look at several, maybe probably 5 or 6 change management models. Maybe at that point, you could tell me, what are some of the change management models that you have come through? Any that you know about? ADCA, I'm sure most of you have heard about ADCA model. Lewin's change management model. Anyone who has any of those models that have put ADCA, for those who have done CHRP, tell me, what does Lewin change management model entail? ADCA model? Any? Change management, when people are going through change that you've come across and what you know about it as we explore it together? Just unmute, put your comments on the chat. Any of the models you've come across? All right, let's explore them together one by one. This is where I want to spend most of the time.
The quotas model.
You have heard about the quotas model, the 8-step?
Yes.
Do you want us to tell us more before we go into it? Was it tested in CHRP?
They are just building on Lewin's change model.
Yes.
Which is the refreeze, change, then the unfreeze, change, then refreeze. So the quotas model, I think it begins with a vision, sharing of a vision, communication of the vision, having what is this team called? A supportive coalition. Those people who will be for change. Then you start to change, you reward little wins.
Great.
Then you reinforce and you institutionalize change.
Yes. You mainstream and institutionalize the change so that it sticks.
Yes.
So that is basically the line of approach we'll take. Just, I'm sure majority of you, when you're doing your diploma, when you're doing your CHRP, I think, is it in counseling? We went through some of this. So it's just to refresh our mind. It's nothing new, but we look at it and how we can apply it in our workplaces in terms of, probably then we were just doing for exams. But why I've picked so many is because there's no one model we can say it is the perfect model. And you are not limited. I like the way he has said that quotas model is just maybe a continuation of the Lewin, which is a 3-step, then the 8-step. You will see, just understand what we are doing here. We want to navigate people through change. Coming from the organization perspective to the personal perspective, how do we walk this journey so that when you're given a change manager, you want to really strategize and position yourself. This is the role that I want to really play. And then once you have different approaches, then you can pick what you like in Lewin, what you love in ADCA, what you need in Kota, Kubler, McKinsey, all that, put them together, and then you'll be able to come up with a plan. Of course, we'll come and look at change management plan, so that if you're ever given that responsibility appointment as a change manager in a particular process, then you have the confidence and you can always pull and come up and know how to navigate people, how to come up with the communication, the things that you can do. It is just to upskill ourselves so that we are able to know how. You don't find yourself, I have never done a change management. I don't know how to go change. We managed it very well when it came to COVID. So we will reflect back on what we did in COVID, and we didn't know we had the capacity to do that. We led our institutions. And then the changes that are likely to happen, even at a personal life, in your family, how were we going to do that? So the following are some of the commonly used. Of course, there are many more. We said models are just like theories, philosophy, approaches on how people do things. And it depends with who has come up with this theory and how is it being applied. So there is no one perfect. We said, if you pick Lewin, if you understand the quota model, then you're home and dry. So let's just learn through and don't get lost in the whole of that, the slides and what, but we'll try to emphasize. So the Lewin's change management model is, as he has said, it's just a 3-step approach to change behavior that reflects the process of melting and also the shaping of an ice cube. So we'll take ourselves to the fridge, how you can pick an ice cube and you want to melt it, then you want to work on it, that is the change process, and then we want to refreeze it again and reshape it so it is able to stay in that shape. Of course, the ADCA model, we are going to look at it. It's a people-centered approach because change is all about people. We are people managers approach to facilitate change at an individual level. Now, when I talk about an organizational level and an organization structure, you really understand. So you can see Lewin change management model, it is 3 steps. It is it takes an organizational approach, because it looks at how do we unfreeze, how do we undo what we normally do, how do we unpackage. Let's work on it, melt it, do whatever we want to do, then we want to reshape it, and we continue as an institution. So it takes the organizational approach. But when you look at ADCA, it starts right from awareness, working with the people, the turmoil, the emotions, the psychological journey. You remember the act of the journey we saw in the change management iceberg? So we want to deal with those 90% underlying issues. A person-centered approach to facilitate change in individual level. So you will employ this when you go now down to where change is happening, and you have to deal with those employees in that department, the focus group that you'll have when you're doing the feedback, when people are resisting, they're giving you the feedback, and you have to manage them. You'll use the ADCA model. Of course, we have the quarter 8-step change model, which is a process that uses employees' experience. It is how the employees are experiencing it to reduce the resistance and also to accept change. So again, it takes the employee's perspective. The Kubler-Ross change curve, don't be worried about these terms and the names. The names just come from the people who derived this model. You can see Lewins was brought up by Lewins. Cotter, there's a person who was called Cotter. He came up with the 8-step change model, which is a process that uses employees' experience to reduce resistance and also to enhance the acceptance of what you want to change. Then Kubler-Ross, again, change curve is a strategy that breaks down how people process change using the 5 stages of grief that we may have learned in counseling. Then McKinsey, of course, it's that consulting firm 7S model is a process that is centered around the alignment of the 7 fundamental elements of change. And then the other one that we are going to look at is 3 more, is what we call the PDCA, which is a cyclical interactive change management process that focuses on continuous and improvement. Of course, continuous and improvement, you're looking at organization from an organization perspective, where you try, you plan, develop, you change, then you reflect on it, and you keep on improving. So, and you keep on repeating that in a cyclical manner until you get into perfection. So it believes in small wins. You keep on enhancing whatever you achieve in the first phase, then you start all over again. What are the issues that you saw? What is it that you did wrong? So it is constant. I would relate it to what we call the Kaizen model. Then the Bridges transition model, it is again a person. It is people-centered model that focus on managing people's experience, transition to change, and also, so it talks about the change process, and also it talks about the journey of transition, which happens to people, which is internal. So we are going to unpack it. And then there's what we call the program change management, which is the Bullock and Burton model. So all the 8 will go with them A to A, all of them step to step. Of course, we'll try to project a summation of how it looks like in a pictorial, then we'll go into the explanation, so that if you're able to take that step, the way it moves, you'll be able to remember. So let's start with Lewin. He has clearly explained to us it is a 3-step model that involves unfreezing, changing, and refreezing. So Lewin change management model, it is named after the originator, Kurt Lewin. It was developed in the 1950s, and it defines change process into 3 steps. The first step is to unfreeze. And what does entail unfreezing? This is the preparation stage, the initiation stage. It analyzes how things are working now. So you accurately understand the status quo. You also understand what need to change. What is this compelling need for us to change to get the intended results? And in this stage, you also make your case to the employee and communicate what to expect, so everyone is impacted. Everyone who is going to be impacted is actually prepared. We said unfreeze, communicate that because of these things, then it is inevitable that we have to take these processes or these changes that is likely to affect. So be prepared. Even when you're bringing a consultant on board, the first thing is you send a circular that we are in the process of reviewing our organization structure or our organization effectiveness, and for this reason, the organization has appointed XYZ consultant who will talk us through this journey. So everybody is aware that they are on board and they're likely to interact with you either through surveys, through interviews, focus groups. So when you see them, you know there's this firm in our organization that has started this journey. So it is that preparation journey, whether it's going to involve the senior managers, a particular department, which department is likely to be affected and we need them to act. So that is the unfreezing. You unfreeze. It is like you unsettle the status quo because you prepare people for change. The next phase is what we call the implementation phase. Now, at that point, if it's maybe the terms of consultants, then the consultants will hit the ground. They will go out, meet the people, maybe have the first meeting to meet the senior managers. They break it down, what they expect, how the process will look like, what input they like from the employee, or that. So whether it is a system change, of course, there are people who are coming out with a new system. They start now understanding how do you do your businesses and all that. Then we need this, maybe come up with the product development sheets and the process flows. So this is the implementation phase. It puts the change into practice. Now they start working and you keep on communicating. This is we need this, after this we'll need this, and then you provide support for all the employees who are involved, work with them. And then after the change has happened, the system have been implemented, the data has been collected, reports have been done, then you refreeze. So the main reason you'll find you want to avoid people falling back into the old ways of doing things. If probably you want to change from one core system to another, you don't want people to have these systems working concurrently. So refreezing could mean maybe shutting down the old system that you're using and moving into the new so that people don't keep on coming back. So you refreeze so that people can be able to embrace the change and develop a strategy to take in to see how well you're doing. So make sure the change sticks, review how the new process works, measure the performance and how well you are reaching your goals, and maybe make adjustments where they are needed. So that is Lewin's change management model. In a pictorial format, it says unfreeze, change, and refreeze. In terms of unfreezing, determine what needs to be changed, ensure there is strong support from management, create the need for change, manage and understand the doubts and the concerns that the people have. During the change, communication is very key. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Then you are also supposed to dispel any rumors, grapevine, any fears people have. Then you must empower people to action. Empower involves things. For people to be able to navigate this change, do we need to train? Do they need some skill sets that they don't have? So you do the training, you support them, empower them, give them the tools that they need. Of course, when we were at the face of COVID, not everybody had the laptops for them to work home. So what were the changes that you needed? How did you retool your people to be able to navigate the change and to do the things that you expect them to do? Involve people in the process. Change entails and involve people. So it is not the management just driving. Get their feedback, involve them, have discussions, know what is affecting them so that you are able to move. Then in terms of refreezing, you want to entrench, to mainstream. He talked about institutionalizing the change. So anchor the changes into the culture, the way of doing things, develop ways to sustain the change. Probably you could come up with even some reward, recognition, sanctions, policies that are in place that will be followed. Then you also provide support, such as training, and then you celebrate the quick wins that comes with it. Outcome means awareness, creating sorry, again messing with my ADCA is just abbreviations for the awareness, creating that desire. Of course, the first one, you break the ice, create that awareness. Desire is you ignite that desire and the willingness for the people to change. You show them what are the benefits, what are the risks or not changing. So you are trying to create that desire among the people that will, so that they can accept the change. Then you impact the knowledge. If they need to be trained, impact the knowledge that is likely to be required. then enable them so they have the capacity and the ability to go through change, and then you do the reinforcement. So we said it was also developed by a gentleman called Jeff Haidt, the founder of Prosky, and formulated 5 main goals to base your change management process on: creating awareness, the desire among the people so that they're able to move from the negative perception to the positive perception and say, it doesn't look bad. I think this can be done. I think I've had another organization that have done that, and they were able to move. They serve more clients because you have done even your benchmarking, and you'll be able to give success stories. Create knowledge. Of course, they fear they don't have maybe the computer skills, the skills that are required to do that. Assure them, then impart that knowledge, then enable them by equipping them, and then by retooling them, and then you reinforce the change that comes. So awareness is just to ensure that everyone in your organization understands the need to change, that it is inevitable and we have to change. Otherwise, if we don't change, it will catch up with us. Create the desire. Make your case so that everybody involved want to have that change. Let them move with you because they want it, not because you are forcing it on them. Provide the information in terms of the knowledge each person needs to know, needs on how to accomplish their part of the change process. So you equip them. That's why training is very key. Then make sure all employees have the skills and the training they need to successfully do their part, and then continuously work with employees and stakeholders after the change is accomplished to make sure that they stay on top of the game, doing the new things that have come. Quarters, again, it's an 8-step process. First, we start by creating, he explained that, then you form, then you enable, you sustain this change, and then there's the building of it, and listing, generate, and institutionalize. So let's look at each of them. When you talk about create, we want to establish a feeling of urgency and the hurriedness towards the change. Of course, that is the perspective from an organization perspective. Then you want to build. How do you start building? By formulating a guiding coalition of the people. Then you want to develop a strategy or a plan that brings about this change. Then enlisting, communicate to put forth the vision or strategy of the change. We want to enable the people, empower employees by taking actions to incorporate such changes. We want to generate or formulate what we call the short-term goals so that we can be able to track the quick wins that comes with it. And then we want the change that is coming up to be sustainable. So we capitalize on the quick wins, the low-lying fruits, and again, in order for us to be able to show people that actually this thing is working and it's going to work at the end. Then entrenchment, which is institutionalizing the change. We incorporate the new and the better changes in the workplace. So again, we said it looks at the organization. Kubler-Ross change management, it was created by a lady called Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which is familiar as the model used to describe the experience of how people grieve. It can be applied to many experiences of change. So understanding these stages can help you better address employees' response to organization. So here we come to the individual level. Of course, when change is coming, there is always the denial. We don't accept it. Even when COVID came, we said, as in Africa, we have better immunity. Hiyo ni ugonjwa wa wazungu. They know what they had had. We actually even thought there is something that has been manufactured in the lab, or maybe still believe, and it is going to just affect that geographical location. So as we are far from Italy, we are far from India, but then things started coming in. So there is that refusal, the denial. Of course, even when institutions started closing down, we didn't all close down in one day. There are those that who immediately are affected and they close down, embrace the hybrid working, the virtual working. There are those who came in later. There are those who could go in, come back, close again after they are hit. So there is that first process of denial. We refuse to believe that so it is normally a knee-jerking reaction, which is mostly negative because we are in denial. Then anger kicks in. When an unwanted change feels forced on a person, then it is natural that now we develop what we call anger. We didn't choose this. We didn't want that. It is being forced on us by the organization. I don't want to be part of this. Then we come up with what we start bargaining. So people may try to push for a compromise to avoid having to accept the change entirely. Can we do it? Can we have the two systems running? Can we wait a little bit longer? Do you think this is the right time? If maybe we need to think of other alternative plans. So we start bargaining. Of course, after we do all this, and maybe probably we see that we are not getting a lot of win, people are likely to slide into depression. If employees are upset about the change and they feel hopeless, there is no hope at the end of the tunnel, they may enter into a stage of depression. And then after depression, now they see this is the reality. Things have happened. The train has already left the station. We have to deal with it. So it is better for everyone that we just start accepting and looking for how now to move on with this. So when people realize there is no other option, they eventually reach the point of acceptance. So here, what we really want to try and do, all these stages are likely to happen. People are likely to experience denial, the anger, the bargaining, depression, but we want to move faster so that we are not lost at any stage. We don't get into a depression and stay there forever. So ideally, you want to design your change approach to address these potential feelings because they'll be there head on and keep employees from experiencing the worst of them. And so the worst experience, you ensure that employees don't stay there for long. They're able to move into from depression to an acceptance stage by supporting them. So, of course, we look at the 7S model developed by McKinsey and company consultants, and it involves breaking a change program into 7 components, which focus on change strategy. You come up with a change strategy and plan. Of course, you can see being a consultant, it is also looking mostly at the organization and, of course, trying to look at how you deal with employees in terms of empowering them. So the first stage is come up with a change strategy. Then you must look at the structure of your organization. How do you structure your organization, and also the change management structures that you put place. Then you also look at the whole business systems and the processes. What are the shared company values and the cultures? Then what is the style on the manner of the how people work? Then who are the staff who are going to be involved? Then what is the skill set of the people we have, and what areas do we need to develop and change the capacity? So breaking organization change down into these core components will avoid having to avoid any part of important factors that has to be factored. So you look at it holistically. Of course, that splits it into 2, what we call the hard factors and also the soft factors. When you talk about the hard, you look at what is the strategic roadmap of the organization. What are the management structures, divisions, how your organization is structured in terms of the organogram. Then what are the systems that are involved in your organization, the procedures, the systems that you use, how do you measure, what are the resources that are going to be allocated? You look at those hard sets of the change process, and you are able to understand that you'll be able to review and say that you have the right strategy, you have a strategic roadmap, you have done plan which has looked at the entire change process, why you want to change that, you have taken care and you tick the boxes. Then the soft element of this, what are the shared values? What do we stand for as an organization? What does this change mean for us? So you look at both the external and both the external and also internal fundamental beliefs that are there in the organization, the culture of that organization, and then what are some of the underlying issues and the beliefs that exist in that organization? Review all of them, and you'll be able to predict how people are likely to respond to this change. Then you look at the skill set. Take an inventory of the core competencies that you have in your organization and any distinct skills and the capability that are required in his whole journey. And then if there are any skills gap, you close those gaps. Then you look at the staff. Who are the human resource, the human capital? What is their demographics in terms of the age, the distribution, the regional distribution, their skill set, their attitude, their characteristics, what they have gone through in terms of experiencing, and you deal with issues that are likely to arise. Then you also look at style, typically behavior patterns of key groups, managers, how they behave, and how the other professions are also behaving in that. Of course, finally, we look at the PDCA model, which is just say plan, do, check, act, and then you keep on repeating that. So it is a continuous change management process that is interactive process that allow business to identify issues. This is more drastic and seek solutions by maximizing their own processes. So you keep on working on it so that you have the minimum disruption. So it consists of the standards 4 steps. You plan what you want to do it, check what you have done, and then act on them. And then you keep on repeating. In order to allow business areas to create change in the organization structures and cultures, it helps the organization to change business processes for continuous improvement. So there are minimal changes that are built on. So what they normally use the concept of compound interest. So anyone within a company looking to improve upon an existing business process, which you can even do at your own departmental level, or develop a new way of getting things done, should look into utilizing what we call the PDCA, which is a continuous change management process, as it will help them identify the problems, make the required adjustment to resolve them, and eventually make the entire process more efficient than it was before. And we can use just a chart to demonstrate what that happens. So you can see in the first picture, you plan, you do, you check. Then you're able to move from one point to somewhere in the middle. Again, you optimize that change process, and then you again do that, and you keep on building on what you had previously. So the plan, do, check, act cycle can be used in change management to continuously improve business process or systems. Each time the cycle is completed, the process or the system of interest shall be more optimized for the intended purpose. So you keep on building on that. I thought that was the last. Still, we have one more model. Then we can maybe just pause and have Q&A. Any questions? We are still at the beginning, but this will throw us almost to the middle of the presentation. So Bridges, again, comes from William Bridges as the name, and it helps organization and individual understand and more effectively manage work through the personal human side of change. So these ones look at the human, the employee's perspective. The model identifies 3 stages an individual experience changes. The first one, you look at the ending what is currently is. What is it that we have today? And we said every change management process has a loss. What is it that we are going to lose? There's something that will come to an end. Then you enter, after going through loss, you've lost what you're used to, then you enter into a neutral zone. That is where now the change happens. After the neutral zone, then the new beginning, which is the transition, begins. So this model views change as an external event, something that comes and hits you, then you lose something, you enter into a neutral zone where you don't have what you used to have, and then the change throws you to a new beginning. Or a situation that takes place and the transition is the inner. As you transit, that is the journey that is in the person, which is an inner psychological process that people go through as they internalize and come to terms with the new situation that change brings. Emphatic leaders recognize that change can put people into a crisis. So actually the neutral mode, you're in a crisis mode. The starting point for dealing with transition is not the outcome, but the ending of that people have in leaving the old situation behind. So change will only be successful with leaders and organizations address the transition that people experience during the change. So it has 3 stages: the ending, the neutral, and the new beginning. What does the ending look like? It's that loss. So he says the transition starts with the ending. It begins when people identify what they are losing and learning how to manage these losses. It's a position of loss. They determine what is over and what is being left. After all that has happened, what has been left? The remnants of that change and what they will keep. So they're only moving with the remnants of what has been left. So they may include relationship. You have lost a relationship. Someone has died. I've got a promotion. That's a change as well. I'm going to leave my team that I was used to, my office. I used to work in the head office. Now I'm relocating to a different region. So I've lost the relationship. Probably the things that you used to do, you had perfected them so well, you are almost at an autopilot stage because you have been there for so long. So you have lost the relationship of the people and the reporting structures. The processes and how you used to work, you're moving now totally to a different office, you lose those processes and you have to start afresh. There are team members, probably a location. There is an ending to all that, so there is loss. Then you transit into what you call the neutral zone, only moving with what is left of you. The second phase of transition comes after letting go. So we want to have people who are letting go of the past. You remember the first picture? Let go of the past and they are able to detach. People go through an in-between time when the old is gone, but the new, it hasn't even materialized. It is not fully operational. It is when the critical psychological realignment and repatterning now takes place. This is the time between the old reality and a future that you don't know what it holds for you, then a sense of identity and the new ones now emerge. So people are creating a new process and learning what their new role will look like, their new future will look like. They're in an influx stage and they may feel confused, they're distressed, there's confusion, or maybe they're even depressed. So this neutral zone is the seedbed of the new beginning. How you deal with it will actually determine the end results and the outcome. So this is where the whole journey is. It's a transition stage. A lot of psychological work is happening. It's a journey. Then there is that new beginnings, which seems to be in the future and far away. So the beginnings involve new understanding, learning other people, how things are done, maybe embracing new values, new attitude, how people treat you. So the beginnings are marked by a release of energy in a new direction. So they are an expression of new, fresh identity. There is hope coming in. And when this is well managed, and we say when we well manage the transitions that we were there before, it allows people to establish new roles with understanding of their purpose, the part they will play, and how they will contribute and fit in the whole structure, and they'll participate more effectively. As a result, they'll feel reoriented and renewed, and they're able to move forward. So that is the ending, the neutral, and the beginning of the bridge model. We say it helps the organization and individuals to understand more effectively, manage and work through the personal, the human side of the change through the transition. And this model identified the 3 stages as we have looked, and that is what it entails. And you can see transition is very key there. When you're in that neutral stage and transiting from the old to the new. So to just sum it up, we say transition management in organization addresses the inner psychological process that people experience during the change, and a successful how we deal with this transition involve those processes. So it involves these steps. There must be communication from the organization about why the change is needed, the justification, why it is inevitable. And you remember the formula that we looked at. It also involves collecting information from those affected by the change to understand its impact on them. We want to understand the gaining, their investment of their outcome. So we want that buy-in. We also need to do an audit to see how well we are doing. We monitor the change, and then we are able to understand the readiness of the people and the organization in terms of the transition process. Again, we want to educate leaders about how the change will affect the individuals because they think it's external. But you can see how change affects the psychological feel, the emotion of the people in the organization, and how we want to manage this effectively. Again, we want to monitor the progress of individuals as they go through the main stages of transition. And then we also want to help individuals understand how they can positively contribute to change and the importance of the role in the organization. So before, I think we have the last one, the bullocks and the button model. Let's just look at it and we can pause and take maybe a 5-minute break, then we can resume. So the first stage, exploratory stage, you explore, you plan, you action, and then you integrate. It's the same process. Integrating is actually institutionalization, entrenching. So the exploratory stage, what it involves, the organization has made a decision on the need to change. It is decided. So we are the initiation, the beginning, the first phase. So you explore and decide on the need for change, identify what change are required, identify that resources are required, and then you go into the planning phase, which entails doing the diagnosis of the problem. We looked at organization diagnosis and how we carry it. We clarify the goals and the objectives. We identify specific activities that are required to undertake the change. We agree the change with the stakeholders, the people who are going to be involved. Of course, we identify support that is required to enable the change to occur, and then we go into work, which is the action. So during the action phase, it is the implementation. Support the change with which is explicit, external, and also we need to support the change which is also intrinsic, which is affecting the people's psychology. Then changes are monitored and evaluated to see the quick wins, the areas we need to adjust, and we make the adjustments. Then results are communicated and acted upon. Adjustment and refinements are done where necessary. Then we integrate the whole process into the organization. Here we are looking at stabilizing and embedding the change, changes supported and reinforced, results and outcome from the change, they are communicated throughout the organization so that people can have that hope that change is actually making some outcome. Then continuously develop employees through training, sensitization, education, support them, talk to them, let them share their experiences, then ongoing monitoring. Again, as we come to the end of the model, I say there is no one best fit model for. So how do we go about selecting the best change model that you can apply? We say each of these change management framework emphasizes the impact centering on the employee and also the ones that focuses on the organization in how you can plan, implement a change, then think about their feelings, treat effective communication with them as a top priority, and we look at how we come up with the plan and how we do our communication. And then we say there is no one change management methodology that is best across the board. Instead, by understanding all of them, you can now pick bits and bits of each of those models, determine which one works most, and make sense to you and your business needs, depending with what project you are dealing with. Then take some few elements of each and every one, or the ones that you think, then apply in your situation. So that is it for the model and about the change. So then we'll come to the skills in the next phase. Let me take, also, I think it has been a marathon on all those models, but don't lost in the many slides and the words. Just understand that change has two perspectives. From an organization and manager's perspective, they look at it from top to down. They have information, they have accountability, they have results to deliver, they have what they have agreed, because these things are decided at the C-suite, at the ESCO. If you pick it from that level, that you're coming from a senior level, organization level of knowledge, now then you are able to understand how it impacts on the people, and you can understand the people's and the employees' perspective, where they expect it to come from bottom up. They don't have the knowledge. They don't know why this change has to come. So it is upon you to now have the change management skill, go to them and then explain. Of course, we'll come up with I'll take you through the planning of change skills. We are going to see how we handle change in the workplaces, how we prepare for those strategies, how we do the communication, and probably have someone who is central to do the communication. We are going to see how we can drive performance improvement as we go through change, and how we can stimulate these positive changes in people. And we can also see how we come up with what we call the change agents, different players in the change matrix, the champions, and how we manage organization change. So those ones we'll cover in the next probably 1 hour. So with that, let me pause and take any questions, reactions, questions, and maybe comments on what we've covered so far. I can tell you we are halfway now. We'll just be able, but the rest will be just short explanation. I just wanted to rush through the models because we have learned them just for us to understand. Let me hear, just unmute, comment. Are we together or I lost you? You can put your comments on the chat. You can unmute and we hear. What is your take on that? Is it something new? Is it something that you've come across in your other learning? Are we together? I can see my class is full. Just unmute. Tell us whether you're together. I lost you. Where did I lost you? Where do we need to recap? Where do we need to go back to? Carol, are we following? Harriet, Jane, Joshua? Yes, Carol. Carol, we can't hear you. I don't know whether I'm the only one. Can you hear Carol? Her mic is on, but I can't hear her. Esther, can you hear Carol?
No, I can't hear her.
Yeah, but her mic is on. Any comments so far? Did we follow? Did I lose you? Guys, we need some feedback. Or you're still digesting?
No, we're okay, madam. Let's just proceed.
Okay. You are following?
Yes, we are following.
Okay, great.
And we've put on the chat as well.
Oh, I need to look at the chat. Okay, that's fine. I know some of us, we are multitasking. This is what we call adult learning. You are just following the class next to your boss. And yeah, I've seen a lot of comments. We are together. I'm following Kindly. We are together. Can't hear her. I'm getting everything as I expected. Sometimes change is difficult to go through these steps. Following closely. Yes, that is true. So there's no one, don't say, I'm going to borrow the Lewin's model. Just understand how change comes. I normally say when you go for training, you don't have to pick everything. You whether you're going to one that employees don't have. Sorry. So you lost me at some point, guys?
Yes, I think you were muted or something.
I was muted, eh? Sorry, I think it's my system that went on. So that's okay. So I'm saying, I just want you to pick the few. Don't be frustrated by the whole models and what have you. For me, what I want you to carry, so, okay, sorry. I think now I'm audible. I'm back. I'm saying all I want you to carry is what is applicable to you and just to understand how change normally happens. Once you understand the approach from the organization and the approach from the individual perspective, the employees, how change affects them, then you're home and dry. I'm trying to share my screen again. And put it now on slideshow. I think my network was a bit unstable. That's why we're having all this. I'm saying, sorry, what you need to pick when you go for these trainings, it is just the application of it. You don't have to cram. You can pick from this training. That now you understand how change happens. From an organization perspective, because we said you wear two hats, you're coming from a seat of sitting in the executive, in the organization, you have all this knowledge, and you have to be at the heart of the change management. So you are able, because for us in HR, we are in between the management and the employees. And you are the people to navigate with these employees, and you can see where their fears come from, their concern, uncertainty, they are resistant. It is based on some fears they have, they don't have. That is asking about the slide. I think you'll get them in the. So just if you're able to and come the change management.
Mwalimu unakatika.
Guys, apology for that. I think I need to change my gadget. Great, I'm back. I say I got disconnected and I don't know why the system is drawing me out. But I hope now, Gashan, you can hear me? Please confirm.
Yes, I can.
You can hear me, but you lost me at some for about 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, that's okay. Let's proceed. We resume the share, and we hope now we'll be able to complete the next phase. So change is very difficult. I'll look at your charts later. Then let's just move so that we can have some 15 minutes at the end to just discuss this before the system now continue misbehaving. So in terms of the skills, good. This is the slide I was looking for. In terms of the skills that we need to equip ourselves with, in terms of the change management, we'll just go through them clearly and maybe at a very high level. The basic skill you need to have, we said we are becoming strategic HR. So when you come to strategy comes with vision. You must have the ability to envision what the future will look like, where the organization is moving to, and you must have that clarity so that you are able to share with the people. Because when you go out to your employee to talk about the justification of why we need to change, you must have that clarity in mind that this is the status that we are in today. This is the current present position that we are in. But because of these things that are happening in the environment, happening in the organization, in the marketplace, and what is happening in the legislative framework, then it is inevitable for us to move, because if we don't move, then change will change us, and we have the risk that we are likely to be maybe thrown out of the competition, be overtaken, or our system may not be able to hold what we are doing. that if we continue doing the things that we are doing in terms of the culture, then we are not likely to perform, or we are likely to do this. When we're doing culture audit, and some of the things we ask the staff is probably to come up. Of course, we know it is going to have a significant impact. People have to change because new leadership has come on board. We start from a point of the current position, and we start always from a positive note. You to come up with a questionnaire or even tell them, we feel, or the management feel, or from the employees satisfaction survey that we did, a lot of people raised concern about 1, 2, 3 things. People say there is a lot of nepotism in our organization. People feel not everybody is given equal opportunities in terms of the training. People feel that the management and the leadership don't listen to their concern. Their communication process is broken. People don't feel like they're heard. These are the things that came out of maybe the last employee satisfaction survey that we did, the tool we implemented. And now the management have decided to go through a change process because we want to have a culture change. Of course, that will cause in that set or disrupted. And for us to be where we are as an organization, we are proud to be where we are. We have been able to come and achieve some milestones. So you even get it from the people. What are the things that you like so much about this organization? What are things that are so unique for us that have taken us to the position that we have been? And people will be picking the good things. Then you come up and frame maybe your issues, like, what are some of the few things that you think we have opportunity for change? What are some of the things that you want us to change in this organization? So you have a very clear vision. You go and come up with a plan, and now you start the implementation. Probably you look for a consultant who will walk you through this journey. And when the consultant comes, he will start from a point of knowing that from what people have spoken, the management took the bold decision of implementing this particular change, and we want solutions to come from you. So we want an institution that will look like this to the end. So you have clarity of the end, how the end looks like. So the ability to envisage that future, it is what is going to drive that whole process. So the next thing is coalition building. You remember we talked about influencing others, building coalitions, collaborating with other functions and the departments is what we are trying to do. So the ability to assemble a coalition with the right mix of expertise, right mix of people, contacts, and experiences to carry out the task. So having senior members on board that can liaise with different departments and the people, because you have different forces and points that you want to influence, brings a different skills to the table and raises the profile of the change management strategy. The other skill that we learned yesterday is the skill of communicating. Communication skills and influencing people is a core skill that you need to equip yourself with. This is the ability to sell your vision, to explain the reasons for the strategy, because we are looking for buy-in. It is very important to get support from the senior managers, your peers, your colleagues that you are working with, for the entire organization, for you to be able to achieve that success. It is also essential that the change leader continues to remind individuals of the initial visions of the progress of throughout the whole strategy. You find, like, because of the resistance and the things that come up with change, constant communication at every stage, at the initiation stage, when you're doing the changes, when you have got quick wins, when you need to make maybe adjustment, when you want to close the old ways of doing things and you want to go into a new beginning, there is a lot of communication engagement of the people. You have to be there. Then the other thing that you need is interpersonal skills, because you can see you're dealing with different people. You must be able to listen to people and get the feedback. You must be able to delegate in order to lead the change in as successful as possible. Of course, the other skills that you need to rally people. You need to motivate. so that the small wins that we are celebrating, people can see there is hope at the far end of the tunnel. So we say this motivation is required right from the beginning as we are going on with the change process, so that people are able to keep on being motivated. So often support with the strategy can diminish as the deadline is pushed back and forth, because you see when you're implementing change, now the implementation dates and milestones keep on changing. Probably you had anticipated by end of the first 3 months we have moved this, but probably you are lagging behind or you are ahead of the schedule. So we need to keep on motivating people so that the excitement that was there and generated at the beginning is actually not lost in the middle. So we say an effective change leader will continue to remind employees of the initial vision, encourage them to continue to work towards it. Targets throughout the process can be set to motivate employees at different stages of the change, so that they have different points where you can celebrate the wins because they have the targets. Then you must have the bigger picture in mind. You must be visionary. You must be able to see the entire process from the start to the end. Then communication process, probably you need to have someone who is at the center of the change process to do all the communications and to let people know this is. So because we said constant communication. So what is the change process and strategy that you can employ in this? We say that communication plays a very vital role in strategic, even in operational levels and also at personal levels of creating change. And we say communication is very important in the following ways. We need to align employees and the organization performance with the business objectives or the change that we are doing. The other, because we want to enable the clients, our customers, who embrace change, and we educate through sensitization forums, through education forums, persuade that all that is we might be experiencing some but it's for the better good of the delivery of our services, because we want to improve the effectiveness and the efficiency. Of course, deliver specific notes on the change. You must explain your communication strategy when change going to what we call the 5 exactly to come. We need to review all the feedback and the input we are getting, the interaction, to ensure there is ownership and there is success from what is coming. We must be able, through our communication, to motivate people, to create that desire for people to act and to support the whole change process. And then we need to involve people through a strong what it is in for them, the benefits that they are going to derive from the whole process, that kind of approach. We must show them we are doing this to make your work more efficient. We want to make this to make our organization maybe improve in terms of performance. We want to create a new vision. We want to get a different strategy of how we are doing things. So you must show people through communication what is in for them and why we are doing this. Then we are saying to be effective and efficient, a change management team include a minimum of one person who is a communication expert. Mostly it doesn't have to be a HR. It doesn't have to be that technical expert. It could be the person who will do the entire communication in the whole change management process, who is often supported by the team of communication expertise, specialist experts, and also the people in the leadership and also the people in HR. Then the other duties of change communication teams, we said we take different roles in the whole cycle of change management. Of course, why we need to have different duties, the first main duty is identifications of the issues that are arising, that affect each and every segment, having an impact due to the change. You are able to identify the concerns of the people. You're going to identify the people. So that identification is very critical. Then there's also the duty of creating effective measures to access the communication efficiency and also the effectiveness, to just determine when you are communicating, How is the communication being experienced? Is it effective? Is it effectively? So that you're able to see what are the areas of adjustment that you need. Of course, again, there is the reason of assuring that appropriate feedback and reviews and mechanisms exist so that all the inputs that are coming from people, all the adjustments they need, they are not lost among the people. So this person who is doing the whole communication is able to have an inventory of all the feedback that we are getting, their action plan, their responsibilities that are attached to them, and then they are communicated and acted upon. Of course, the communication team will be able to determine various tools that are needed to do the communication, because at times we may need to meet the people to allay the fear in terms of physical meetings. At times, issuing of just circulars might be sufficient. At times, maybe coming up with a handbook and putting all the requirements and the steps that are required, or maybe the training materials of what has been trained for people to work with them might be sufficient. So they're able to determine, have a variety of different tools that are needed for executing this communication. So you can imagine this even record taking and also the tracking is what we really need. So people reaction to change is different. And of course, as we progress with the implementation of the change process, as we go with time, the confidence level of the people and the reaction keep on changing as well. And if you were to use this chart, you can see how from the beginning through a curve, how people keep on changing. At the beginning of the change process, of course, because you have been able to justify the change process, the reason why it is inevitable, and then you can see maybe the resistance to change is less than the desire you have, the reasons that you have justified. So there is very high confidence level from everyone, right from the organization, because they see now we have already broken the ice, we have unfrozen, and we have decided this, we have to go through the change process. So at the beginning, people are very confident. The confidence level is very high. But of course, people feel overwhelmed by the activities that has to go into it. They're not sure about the planning, the teams to put in place, how it will work. So people have a lot of information and a lot of things that are going around. So they feel mostly overwhelmed. At the second phase, when now you begin and you are now at the preliminary stages, you have started now implementing, the confidence level now dips. People now start now doubting themselves. Are we on the right path? Are we going to make it? They start asking, having statements like, I'm not sure I know what is going on. I'm not sure if this was the right decision. I'm not sure whether this was the right approach. I'm not sure we picked the right consultant. I'm not sure if the team that we have will hack it. So the confidence level peaks. But then, because we have a communication team, we have a change management team, there is the support of the management. They've been able to pick the feedbacks and maybe probably done some few adjustments, does some few reassurance, dealt with the people who are opposing. Then they've been able, from the iceberg, they've been able to win some opponents into the people who are now potential supporters of this. Then the confidence level starts again to rise. And people now say it, actually, if so and so are confident about that, from what I heard from Carol, from what I heard the CEO saying, from how the consultant, I think people now start feeling we can handle this. I think this is doable. Then they go and try and we implement, and suddenly again, another shock comes. Again, even further than the beginning. With time, the confidence also dips. And people now, they say it is involving a lot of work. Probably you're already at the testing stage. We have implemented this, we have given our requirement, but now the system is weak. Maybe the time that I used to, if it's a system, let's say an IT system, I used to do this transaction.
We can't hear you again, Madam.
It won't work. Yes.
We lost you a bit there.
Where did you lose me again? At what point? At the beginning of the chat, where the confidence level had dipped? Where did you lose me? At what point?
In the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, maybe 2-3 statements before you spoke last.
Or 3 steps behind.
Yeah.
So we said at the beginning, because we have set everything structures, or we have learned, we have picked the best model, our confidence level is very high. You are with me at that point?
Yes.
But people are overwhelmed because a lot of things have to be aligned together, plans put together, aligned, there are a lot of activities happening at the beginning, the communication team, the change management team. So people are a bit overwhelmed, but the confidence is also up there. So when the confidence now level start declining, because people are getting overwhelmed, they're getting tired, they are not sure, then again, that is the first level, it dips to the first. Then once we are able to handle all the concerns that arise, teams are in place, there is no doubt that we have to come into this, then there is again an upsurge of the confidence level. And people now say, with what I heard the CEO say, with the measures that have been looked at, now with that information that has been shared, people start thinking, now we can handle this. So the confidence goes up again. However, when now we go into the full implementation and maybe the testing phase of what we are trying to do, we find that things are even more difficult than we anticipated. We were promised this. They said this is the best system in the market. This was the best consultant. But now when you try to experiment and test, you find it is not the way we expected it. Maybe the time it used to take us to complete a process, and I gave an example of an IT system. Maybe it's the transaction posting, the way you post transactions in the system. An activity that used to take you 1 minute, now it takes you 5 minutes, because probably you have to go back to the manual, make errors, it doesn't go through, the system hangs because it is maybe web-based, it is online-based, so you're not able to complete the transaction of what you used to do with the ease of what you are used to. So what happens as time progresses and you get deeper into the project, now you'll find in the middle of it, it becomes very now murky. And the confidence level of the people start getting overwhelmed. They're not even certain of what, they're not sure whether it will work. It dips at the lowest. And this is where we see and we say communication has to be continuous. Motivation, speaking to the people. Now this is the point people at the transition. They have lost all what they had lost. The other system is no longer there. We have, it looked like the reality has hit us. There is no going back. They are in that neutral phase at the deepest of it. This is where now that model of looking at the people from an individual perspective, the transition, the emotional, like psychological, now you employ that kind of a model. So here people, you start hearing comments like, we can do this. This won't work. We are not allowed to do this. We are not allowed to go back to the system. We are not allowed to even give our opinion. The management have made up their decision that we have to go. Of course, adjustments come in. There is a reassurance. HR comes in. Change champions comes in. We are reassure people. We employ all those models, and people now start picking up and say, actually, this thing we have to just accept. We have to move with it. So that now reassurance and the confidence now start picking. And people now seeing, actually, these things might work better than, because maybe the challenges that were there have already been taken care of. Adjustment has been made, reassurance, maybe their teams who have come from the trenches and say, actually, this system is better than the old one. For me, I'm able to do those. Those people that succeeded now are able even to share their success stories, are able to share their experiences with the others. And now people start seeing this thing might be better than where we are. Of course, with time, we start hearing comments as, this could be a better way of doing things. So with the confidence level again start picking, and we need to sustain that so that even as much as we are we are missing our timelines, people don't flip back. So you can imagine the change management process here. When we are moving so well and steeply, it's also very brittle and very sensitive, because you can see the rise and the curve is very sharp. We want to ensure that people don't slide back where they were. And you can imagine a mere miss and a slide could take us back to the ditch that we are coming from. So people now start going, this is more effective, more celebration, more reward, more recognition, so that you are able to encourage and entrench those behaviors. Of course, at that point is where you want now to freeze, institutionalize, so that there is no way of going back. And now you start hearing comments of people who are saying that he really made the effort to help us implement this change. Yes, we are winning. And then we freeze, we institutionalize, we move, and then we have been able to transit. And that becomes a win-win situation. Of course, in terms of the change and the process that we have seen, you can see that to change the reactions of the people and how people react to them, there are various reactions. Of course, we see it is determined by the information they receive. What kind of information have your people received? It will determine how they react. You remember we said people react differently to the communication that we are going to change. So the type and the depth of the information that is able to be received by the people, the visions, the plan, the mitigations measures, the things that have been executed, how it has been, it actually influences how people receive that and how they react. Of course, their work and how they do it. Who is going to be affected by the change that we are implementing? What is the scope of the work? What is the extent of the disruption? That also affects how people react. The context in which they do the work. What is the management attitude? What is the management level of involvement? What is the management leadership style? Is it consultative? Are people allowed to give their input? Do they feel like they have been heard? Or is this coercive? We have to meet our targets. We don't have the budget. It's either we do it, it's either you shape up or you shape out. What is that approach? What are the needs of the organization? Because again, we want to balance the individual needs with the needs of the organization. So we see that to change their behaviors and how they react, employees need to see the link between the organization and what they do on an everyday basis. So that interlink, that relationship actually is going to affect how people react to these changes. And then the change cycle, of course, just in a pictorial, when you see me now using a lot of pictures, that can tell you we are almost going to the tail end, and we are just doing mostly a recap. The change cycle, of course, the first phase is denial, resistance. Then people start exploring. After the exploration and executing, then there's some level of acceptance, and then the commitment phase comes in. The denial, let's look at what goes into that. Denial is running away from change. You think you don't have to change. Things can continue, they are working. So you are in denial. So it's like burying your head in the sand. You are running away from reality. So people should be helped to recognize that their denial behavior. So you show them what are some of aspects, how they are denying. So help them to walk through that. That you know, this is the reality. You stop lying to yourself. This thing has to happen. Group denial is also impact on the organization. It could be that your organization are in denial and you think you are top of the industry. You think because you have succeeded so well in the past, even without what we have, even with our culture, it will still continue working for us. But there is always the tipping point, which is the turning point. We might reach a stage where we are hit like this and we slide backward. We have seen many organizations being thrown out of business by technological change because they were in denial. It could be a group denial in terms of a particular profession or a group of people who are in denial. Let's give an example of us, the HR practitioners. You can imagine when IHRM introduced the CHRP, what happened? A lot of people said, I have my degrees, I have my masters, I'll not do this. I've been in this industry for the last 30 years. Those are mere threats. And even in denial, people rush to court. All this happened. There are people who said, yeah, I'll not do that course. I don't think it is not as intensive as the diplomas we did. I've been this, what is it going to try? It's typically theory. We'll do it to just tick the box. But then reality has caught up with the people. And we can see the upsurge and the rise of the people now who are enrolling because they have seen actually the reality. So you could have a group denial, an organization denial, an industry denial. Look at the companies like the Ever Ready. They were thrown out of business because of technological. So you could be in denial. And we say that people generally avoid exploring new areas and they want to remain in the present status, the status quo, because they are comfortable and they don't want to change. And we also deny that only happened to other people. It cannot happen to me because we are always in denial. I asked you a very good question, even on an individual level. Is change predictable? What are some of the possibility that a particular change can affect your organization or you as an individual? Which areas are you in denial? You might be thinking, I'm the best in the industry. I'm the best and the master of all in this. There's nobody else who can do this better than me because you're in denial. Open your eyes and let us explore and let not avoid exploring. I've always challenged ourselves, can we explore other areas and see what other people are doing? So when you find that as an organization, as an individual, you are attaining a high score in terms of the denial, it actually means that you don't acknowledge change. You are resisting change. It also means that you are unaware of how change affects you and it's likely to affect you. And again, it means that you see change on a negative perspective. What about resistance? What does resistance entail? Everyone resists change. It is very human and very natural. Nobody wants to change. And we all resist unless we don't have any other option. So you are not alone. And I can say resistance is just natural. It's inherent. It's just the way we have been. We have been experienced. We have been nurtured. It is our makeup. So when you're attaining a high level of resistance, even in the organization, the number of employees who are resisting a particular proposed change, it means that there is a feeling of insecurity. It means that there is some doubt in their ability, in your ability. You are not sure that you can do it. You are not sure it's the right thing. You are not sure whether you are skilled or you have the right competencies, or whether you are able to handle that. What is happening? You think it's too much for anybody to bear. You think that you are not well equipped. So there's that doubt. Of course, resistance comes because you feel embarrassed. If I was to lose my job, if I was to be promoted, what will people say? What will be the reaction of the other people who are competing with that? You feel like you don't deserve it. People will talk. You might fail. So there's that feeling of embarrassment or failure because nobody wants to fail because the future is uncertain. You don't know how you'll perform. You don't know whether you'll fit in. You don't know what is likely to happen. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. So that is what is at the bottom of this resistance. When you look at it from an iceberg perspective, there's the feeling of insecurity, the doubts, the embarrassment. People think that they lack the power, and they also don't appreciate the change. Those are some of the things when you score high on resistance. Then when people move now from resistant and they start exploring, there's an upsurge of hope or possibility. So exploration is a very good thing. It generates energy. It generates hope. It provides learning opportunity and the willingness to unlearn, to stretch yourself, to save the to maybe try new things that you have never tried, as you can look at in that photo. So people accept the change. There's some level of acceptance. They access the change. They say, what does this involve? Let's unpack it. Let's peel it. What does it require of us? And we are ready to take up the challenge. You have a clearer vision of the future look like. If we do this, we put our foot, we manage it well, then it will look brighter. Then you work, you start working towards it. You put all the apparatus and the required and everything that takes you to be able to get out of this because of the determination, because now you want to cross to the other side. Then, of course, when you attain high levels of scores in terms of exploration, it means that people are excited about the change. They are focused on the future. They want to see the desired outcome. And there's this upsurge of positive feelings about the change. And now people can say, we are able to do all that. Of course, commitment. Now people start sharing their experiences. They are saying, we are in this together. We can make it. And then people start moving. So commitment results in effective performance, improved productivity, and people have adapted to change as being normal, business as usual. It's a comfortable zone, and this is what we desire as an outcome of any change process. Of course, when we score high in terms of commitment, we have high commitment. What it means, like people have accepted the change as permanent. They have moved on with it. People work to carry on the change. They are at their optimal performance. They feel comfortable about it. They can celebrate. They feel that they have been part of the journey and they are prepared for the next change and the next phase because they know it has worked. Change assessment. What kind of information do we need? How can you move away from denial? We want to find out what changes are happening, why the changes are happening, how others are coping with change, and then we want to separate wishes from reality because change is a reality and we are not in denial. When you're carrying out that assessment of the change again, how can you move away from resistant? We want to explore your feelings of resistant. Where are they coming from? Is it lack of ability? Is it because of fear? What are the concerns? What are we fearing? And we should be able to accept their feelings and our feelings as being natural. It is very normal. It's very human. It's part of the process. And you remember we said change is a journey. It is not an event. Of course, we want to understand the need for change. Why is it that we have to change? We share our experiences. They seek support to adjust the more positive outlook. Are we together? Let me hear. I'm seeing my network also misbehaving again. Are we together so that I can proceed? Just a confirmation?
Yes.
Good. I don't want to lose you, but if you lose me again, please stop me because I can see there is a problem. I'm actually using two networks, but still there's some loss of it. Again, we want to see how can we move from exploration stage to go to commitment gradually. You remember the PDCA? Gradually building. We are coming from denial. We have come from resistance. Now we want to see how explore commitment, explore different views of change, seek new ideas to adapt, practice new skills to manage this change as you pick them, work with others to solve the problems that are coming, experiment before adopting the new solution. And then we'll be happy to have gone to the final stage of commitment, and it's a win-win situation. So preparing a change strategy, I had said we can look at preparing a change strategy or what we call a change plan. Not going for more than 2 slides, so because I just want to demystify how you go about it so that you can understand even how to embrace this. There are many models that we looked at. So when you are ever tasked to take people through any change management process, always prepare a simple plan or what we call a change strategy. And we're saying a change management plan is just an outline that serves as a roadmap. you want to come up with a roadmap or a structure of how you're going to define concrete steps of an organization that will take to implement and execute the change management process at a very high level. We're saying these plans are adopted by organizations to embrace and to encounter changes within the workflow so that you are able to have some flows and you're able to tick all the issues and the equipments that you need. It tells about how to use the tools, the processes, the models that we have learned that are required to managing people towards changing the environment. So typically, a change management strategy or a plan should fulfill the following purpose. You should be able to provide a case for change. You remember we started from the equation? Why are we changing? What is the justification? What is the vision? And we get the vision for that change so that we are able to get the buy-in. You must be able to facilitate. So come up with a business case. What is this change all about? What has triggered all this change? Who is it likely to affect? And how do we plan to execute it? Again, ensure how do we do the entire, come up with a communication strategy. Who is going to run? Who will be the center of all this in terms of facilitating change? How they communicate to the people from the initiation, how they take the input, the feedback, the training, and he's able to be all around in the whole process and ensure we are not missing anything in terms of communication. Because at no point do we want the people who we are using to implement change to feel like they are being ignored. They are part and part of the process. Once you involve people, you have their feedback, their input, there is that ownership. Of course, you have to critically think. We anticipate there must be some resistance. It is very natural, it's normal, that is a sure way there must be any resistance to any change. So where is the resistance going to come from? What is the fears? So you'll not even be afraid to go and have a focus group and discussion with the people. What are your fears? What are your concerns? Because you know where they are anchored on. It's either they lack the skills, they feel they might lose their job, they are unsure whether they have ability, they are unsure whether because you can imagine the balance of information is not balanced. The employees have very minimum information when the people in management and the organization have a lot of information and probably not all that information have received. So we are coming from a different point of knowledge. So once you are able to get all that, you'll be able to manage the different levels of resistance we have shown. Probably people have gone through the similar changes and it failed. But what are the lessons that were learned from there? Of course, you must think on how to monitor the progress of your project or your change process. How you pick the low-lying fruits, the quick wins, how you communicate them so that there is renewed hope and energy. We must also be able to factor managing, implementing of the obstacles and the barriers that will come along the way. It is something that we have to think about when we are moving through this change. Then you provide reinforcement. What kind of positive or is a negative reinforcement do we need? How do we ensure that the changes that have come are frozen, are institutionalized? Do we have rewards for people who are showing progress, who are embracing, who are actually demonstrating the desired behavior that we want to reinforce? Are there sanctions for the people who go contrary to the plans and probably they're actually part of the parcel of the maybe the obstacles, or maybe they're inciting other people? How do we deal with those categories of people? Then as a continuation, we say an effective change management plan that constitutes all the things that we have put or ticked in the box ensures that the employees are guided through the change journey. You remember we said change process is a whole journey and support a smooth transition to change. So anytime you see change, you will understand that very fundamental and strong term called transition. And the moment you think about transition, it's the psychological journey and the turmoil of people who have lost something and they're moving to a new beginning, and they're in this transition journey, and what is likely to happen in their mind, in their emotion, in their psychology. It is also important to have an integrated and a comprehensive change management plan that involves every part of the organization, clearly articulate the organization strategies. This is from the leadership, helping employees understand why the change is very critical and what the future state will look like. What does success look like at the end of this change? And feel like the post the process. How does it feel like post all this change process that is likely to happen? Then on a very high level, we're going to look at the steps. We are just going to look at the 6 steps of creating change management plan. How do you go about it? First, define the change and align it to the business goals, because it must be entrenched in the strategy. Define what is it that we want to change. So we are saying the definition of what to achieve and why, a critical review against the organizational goals and performance objective, because it's coming right from the vision, to make sure that the change will carry your business in the right direction, either financially, strategically, ethically, or even in whatever operationally or economically that you want to achieve. After you define the change and you align it to the strategic objective, then you must be able to determine the impacts and those that are affected. Have it structured and in a scope. So the other thing you need to do is to develop a communication strategy, which you have talked about, the communication, having someone to communicate. Every employee should be taken on the journey of change. Choose the best means to communicate. What are some of the communication methods and the tools that you're going to use? Teams to get to know them. An effective communication strategy include a timeline on how to change, how the change will be incrementally communicated. Key messages have to be drafted in the communication channels that you plan to use in the whole process and when to use them. Of course, the 4th step is to provide effective training, capacity building, creating awareness, and sensitizing employees. After that, you need to implement the support structures that are in place. Building a support structure is crucial to help employees practically as well as emotionally and psychologically adjust to the changes that are happening, also to achieve the desired results. Of course, you need to build them so that they can improve in whatever, and you also want to reinforce the desired behavior alongside the technical maybe skills and the competencies that they require. So this, to help employees to adjust to these changes and assist them in performing their roles, have an open door policy, open communication, transparency, and support, and allow them to ask questions that we also respond to in terms of the feedback and the input they make. And then the final step is to measure the change process, monitor, measure, see how you are communicating, you're doing well, and then make any reviews and adjustments that are required. Of course, just a continuation in communication, communicating change and understand the obstacles to change. Of course, when you tell or when you impart people's knowledge, mostly what you do, you want to increase their awareness, you want to increase their understanding and their action, you want to increase their acceptance and their alignment, and you want to increase the knowledge and also the engagement of employees. Of course, we spoke about different medium of communication, whether we want to use circulars, we want to use what we call the newsletters, handbooks, we want to call for meetings, we want to call for sensitization. Of course, that will show. So maybe just to look at the next slide, which is just a combination of that. So, and we say, when we just want to create awareness at the beginning of the level, maybe you could use mediums like memos, letters, notices, or email to the staff. They'll be able, because all what we need is to unfreeze, create awareness that this is going to happen. Of course, when you're looking at selling an idea, which is going to create an in-depth understanding and for people to be able to action, probably we should use more detailed communication tools like booklets, which are detailed, have the whole story, have different scenarios. We could also use what we call the focus groups, the plenary sessions, presentations, videos that have simulation, intranet, because that can carry a lot of, in this we are trying to sell. We want to actually move from just creating a mere awareness to creating an in-depth kind of understanding, and we want people to act and to buy in. Of course, when you want to gain acceptance and alignment of the people, then consultation comes in. And some of the tools we use for consultation are things like focus group, working parties, task forces, suggestions scheme, consultative and presentation where people brainstorm. You have that ideation process, so that then it's a complete process. It's not one way. You hear, take, and then you get the best alternatives. Of course, when you want people to join in the bandwagon, you want them to be fully engaged, to have ownership, create what we call the working sessions, conversations and workshops and the coaching, mentorship, people doing the job shadowing. So you can see someone who is an expert in terms of the communication will use different tools, models, ways of communication, and you all put them together. Of course, why some of the reasons why we find change process failing, it's because of many reasons why organization change fails. One of them, the role of manager is disregarded, and we over-rely on the technical people. You can see all the things that we've been talking about, the change management. Of course, it moves from the personal, social level to the organization. And we kept on using very technical projects like IT, cost systems that are changing, and they are affecting the whole service delivery up to the customer level. And we are seeing HR at the heart of this change management. So when you look at the role of the managers are mostly facilitators. They're not maybe even technical people. They facilitate the whole process, communicating, engaging people, being with people and guiding through. So when you disregard the role of managers they play in the change management, that you want now to drive it from the top leadership to the technical people, and you don't have people carrying up the roles, then it is likely to change. The other reason why change fails is because there is no communication, or the communication is not adequate. So communication fails to win the hearts and the minds of the people because we communicate for the sake of communicating. You'll not say that you're not aware because we sent a circular, and you are very quick to show on this you received a circular saying like that and that. So we have seen we need to combine different methods of communication. And when you remember yesterday we dealt with communicating to influence. And sure, when you communicate, you have what you communicate, and you're able to influence the hearts and the minds of the people so that you are able to influence them to voluntarily work and support your project. The other reason, individual interest or individual feelings and beliefs and concerns are actually ignored. That we get lost so high in the iceberg that all what we are seeing is the cost, the quality, and the turnaround time and the return on investment. And all the underlying issues we saw in that iceberg, which are so individual and employee-centric, are ignored. So you can imagine that is a ship that was driving in a sea or an ocean. The captain, who is the leader, when they ignore what is underlying, they're likely to just see the tip of that iceberg and forget what is underlying the 90%, and they're likely to hit the ship. The other reason could be the engagement of the people is not monitored and it's not measured. So we assume everybody is moving along with that, and you find that you lost everybody on the way at the end of it. So your project and the change process fails. The other one is lack of focused manager in the teams. I think that is related to number one. And then the last, we can say no regular training, employee engagement activity. We assume we hired you because you are qualified, you've been doing this, you should just maybe transfer the same skills that you've been using into the new project. You should know it is expected that you should know. At your level, you have worked here for many years. It is expected for anybody who is an accountant should know Excel, should know these kind of skills. So when you make that assumption and you just conduct trainings for the sake of training, you remember, say, when you're conducting your training, you need to know what you're training on so that you are just doing that to close the gaps that have been identified. So it is always good to come up with those gaps, understand, get the feedback, get people's input, know what you need. Of course, barriers to change at a very high level, they could be rational barriers or personal barriers. Rational means these are very systematic or structural kind of barriers that we may not have control, or maybe we require more preparedness. One of the barriers could be what we call technological problems, that the infrastructure we have, it is not adaptive to what we are proposing to change. So we have technological or structural barriers. The other barriers we could have could be the legal issues. The legal framework is not enabling, or probably the legal framework that has been changed, it is so limiting, it could be so punitive that it affects the way we do our service delivery. The other rational barrier, or what we call the hard barriers, could be resource availability. We are struggling in terms of funds. We don't have any financial resources. Employees, we adequate employees, maybe well equipped, could be also a problem. When you come to personal barriers, and mostly those are institutional or environmental barriers when you talk about rational barriers. The other barriers that come into play are personal barriers, because we said change happened to people, to individuals. So it could be individual resistant to change. It could be group resistant, a whole department, a group of people have resisted. And then it could be external resistance from the customers, the stakeholders, or the people who are supposed to support you. Then they have that resistance. Then fast forward, we look at driving performance improvement through change. And we say it is a whole cycle, or it's a whole process. And it starts from the initiation stage, the vision, defining what change, defining what we are looking at, and defining the desired outcome or the future. So it all starts from defining what success looks like. What is it that you want to achieve? After you define and you are very clear of your vision and what you want to attain, you go to shadow to understand. That means you want people to understand, you want people to buy in, and you want people to start gaining acceptance. Of course, you need to leverage on talent. Once you decide this is where we want to go, this is what we want to change, then you have to take stock, take an inventory of what you have in your organization. What is your talent inventory? Who are the people that you can rely on? What are the competencies and the skill sets that are required? And then you see what are the gaps, what you have in your inventory, what will be required in the whole change process, what are the gaps, and then you do intervention in terms of the building. If there are people who need to be trained, train them. If there are attitudes that need to be changed, change them. Then continue eliminating the gaps and the obstacles that come along the way. Of course, the next thing, identify the quick wins, celebrate them, reinforce them, reward them. And also, we say the quick win goes with reward, recognition, and also sanction for the people who are not behaving into, or maybe they are doing contrary to what is expected. Of course, when you're doing all this change, what you're looking at is to improve the people we serve, their experience, how they experience the institution, the organization, all us. And then keep on monitoring, do adjustment, then you improve and you repeat the whole cycle and you build on it. That is what I can talk about. Then just looking at, which is the second last aspect we look, is stimulating positive change in people management, because we are people managers. And we say, a surefire way to shoot yourself in the foot when you're leading a large-scale change effort in an organization is to ignore what is in the minds of the people, what is in the minds of the employee, because you think the management, now for us who are in the leadership, there is the push you have from the organization, that perspective, you are the agent. But when you come to the trenches and you meet the people who are actually the people going to implement, we tend to think that their input and their contributions and what is in their mind is inferior, because we have come with this perspective of top-down kind of approach. When the employee, you can see what they are looking at is to be heard, their input to be taken into consideration, their concerns to be addressed. So some of the techniques that should help you to drive positive change in people management so that you are able to overcome the resistance is to state and listen and acknowledge the feedback. We talked about feedback yesterday. Leaders must take time out to reflect on the feedback, acknowledge them, learn from the teams, and know that their voices have been heard, and also incorporate their ideas. Number 2, as someone mentioned, use emotional intelligence. Understanding the team's fears, explaining why to the team, why we need to do this, reassuring them of the benefits that are likely to come that will also benefit them, that when an organization is doing well, it is also a win for us, because probably we can make our benefits better, we can improve our salaries once we are doing better. So there are bonuses that come, it is a shared benefit. It will also gain, you'll also be able to gain their trust, because everything is based on trust. And you can see there are a lot of emotions and psychology that is going there, and a lot of doubts, concerns, and pain and loss going through there. So ensuring effective output from everyone in the organization using that emotional intelligence. Of course, you need to clearly define the roles and the responsibility and offer trainings to those roles and responsibility, because probably sometimes there are changes. Teams need to understand their responsibility very clearly, role clarity, not overlapping duties and role. There is some level of responsibility and accountability, and to be trained in order to ensure effective position. And then you should remember to reward acceptance. Setting up a reward system for those who put their time and effort to embrace the change will encourage the entire team to participate in the positive change and also encourage the others. Then finally, we look at employees champion. We also have change agents in the process that manage the whole organization change. And we say different roles. We said we need to have role clarity. Which role is being played by different managers and different employees. So the various roles we have in change management will tell the change drivers. Who are the people who are owning, who are driving the change? You remember we talked about ownership, sponsors, and the organization become the change drivers. Then, and also the managers become part and parcel of the parcel, depending with the role that you do. Of course, we have change implementers. These are the people, the foot soldiers, the people who are implementing the change. What are their roles? What areas? Because it's a whole curve. What information do they need to provide? Which part of the role are they contributing? What skills do they need? And then we equip them. Who are the change enablers? HR is one of the change enablers, because we need to support and enable and facilitate the change management process by helping and support the communication experts, the change management champions. They come all in that package. Who are the change recipients? The people who are likely to be affected by the change process are what we call the change recipients. This could be the clients we serve, the customers which we serve. And now, of course, even the people who are being involved become the recipients, the people who will use what will come out of the change process, become who are. So we need to factor all those roles and have very clear role clarity, and you train and you keep them with what they need. Of course, people in an organization should take one different role while a change is being initiated or implemented in an organization. They could take up the role of a change driver, change implementer, change enabler, or even the recipient. So they play different roles. And just to continue from there, in a nutshell, we say a change agent is someone who is employed to improve organization effectiveness using planned and deliberate strategy. Remember, we said a change management process, it's a very deliberate, structured way of managing the change process. They have 4 characteristics. They should be open to change. They should be open to people's experience. And they should focus on results, which is linked to the business objective. And they are effective communicators. And they listen. They have listening skills and strong communication skills. So change agents support management initiatives through consulting, through training, through research, and they can be useful in helping fix the unattended problem, or what we call the unfixed. So we are just coming to the very tail end. Some of the characteristics of an effective change agent: openness to change, openness to experience, focus on results, and effective communication. You can read the slides because that's just an explanation of what we have said. And in conclusion, and to close about the change management, we'll take the wise words of Jack Canfield, who said, change is inevitable in life. That is all what we have been preaching. And you can either resist it and potentially get run over by it, or you can choose to cooperate with it, adapt it, and learn how to benefit from it. When you embrace change, you begin to see an opportunity for growth. So in everything that happens to you, whether it is negative, it is painful, it can come as a shock, always try to look for the silver lining. In every happening in this life, there is always an opportunity, a growth opportunity, and there is always a silver lining. And we always say people grow the most during change. And those are the things that come to be your defining moment in life. You can even reflect back in your life that the time that you have grown the biggest, you have grown more in your life, it is when you have gone through a significant change, which could have been painful. You are not seeing how the future looks like, but you grow the most. Whenever you find like you think you're thriving, you're at your comfort zone, you tend to sit back and you normally grow the least. So that brings us to the end of that module. It was the longest, I think, and that is why you could say today we tended to rush more. But I can see it's already noon, but I'll take a few questions. You can have comments, you can have reactions, and we can seek any clarification. I know we have moved a bit faster than yesterday and the day before, but I think we've been able to cover that. The beautiful thing with this, you'll have the video recording, and you'll also have the slides that you can always follow. These are things that you'll have for life. You don't need to worry. You can keep on revisiting. You can keep on doing research, because we are here to keep on learning. Thank you for that. Any questions? Any reaction? I hope I didn't lose most of you. I'll take a few comments. Yeah, Tabitha?
Thank you, Rhoda, for the insightful session. I'm sure you need a glass of water, not one or two.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when we talk about change is very broad, and considering some of us have been casualties of such kind of changes, and it has been painful considering we had a redundancy exercise 3 years ago, and like you said, the HR becomes I think she's the one he or she is backstabbed at the back. Yes. And because they go with the notion that you are the person, maybe you could have sided with them, probably you could have done it better. So I don't know how such kind of a thing can be handled, and especially because it was a redundancy for cleaning or support staff. So they do not look at it in a more objective way. But it's very hard for them to understand that probably the buck does not stop with the HR, but because of the larger decision makers. So sometimes it's very painful as for HR's Rhoda. We just have to be resilient, and like for myself, I had to undergo some counseling session because they went with the notion that this was a HR decision and that is it. So I don't know how, Rhoda, you could help such HRs like us who have to go through the same kind of a process. I don't want to say it's a comment. It's just something that I felt I need to share with this forum. Yeah.
Thank you, Tabitha.
Yeah.
Actually, and you'll also find as we climb this career ladder for HR,
Yeah.
increasingly with the new occurrences, HR have become casualties of most of the organization changes that happen.
Very true.
We take the blunt of all. And
Yeah.
because of the position we occupy, even when you saw what happened during the COVID,
Yeah.
everybody was okay and everybody was looking at HR. We actually drained ourselves into carrying everybody. But I kept on asking, how many of those people even came back to find out how is Tabitha doing? We came up with care centers. Did anybody worry about your emotional drain, the people you are losing in the organization? But people always think, HR, we are okay. We can handle it. And every major organizational changes that happens, like even the disciplinary, see what goes on in the disciplinary. They are the heart of it, at the center of it. And if you were to send someone home, who do they say have sent them home?
HR.
It is HR. She's the one
Yeah.
who terminated me. And we
True.
cannot run away from that.
Very true.
For me, what I try to do, of course, some of these things are really pushed by the organization. They are beyond your control. There is little you can do, but you are the one who communicates that. And you'll find even at the CEO's level, when the decisions are hard, they will avoid communicating, and it is HR communicates. And if
Very
they
true.
know the process and what the end will be, if they find it's going to be messy and it will have a lot of casualty, HR is always put in the limelight. But when we want to communicate good decisions that we want to increase people's salary, we want to have promotions, then it's probably the CEO to communicate, or other people. Even
Yeah.
other senior directors can sign for the CEO because it is very good news.
Very
For
true.
me, I anchor my values on what I told you on day one. Never strip anybody of their dignity. And we take a lot of time and effort to do our staff induction and onboarding when people are coming, because it's a very good thing to do. People are going to congratulate you. They'll tell you the way they're happy. You oversaw the recruitment process. You didn't know them. And you're also happy and excited because you have created an opportunity for someone. Someone is growing. They will already remember you for this.
Yes.
But at the point of exit, please use a lot of time and effort also at that stage. I'll be the one who is giving you your termination letter, taking you through the disciplinary, because mostly they are not HR staff in your department. And even those complaints and the issue arose from other different quarters and they want to own. So even how you train your business leaders in terms of owning up the whole process. Incident reporting, investigation, let it be built. And I always advise, let us deter, maybe if it's possible, I don't know whether it's possible in one organization, to remove HR from the investigative role when it comes to disciplinary, and you leave it to security, especially when you have the security and audit and risk. So for you, when you sit in the disciplinary, you come from a clean slate. You have not soiled yourself in the entire process. And try to be as humane as possible. Whether someone is coming to appear before you for disciplinary, you're going to communicate, never remove that human dignity. Even when they came, they are the most, at that point, They are their brittlest moment, the weakest moment. They're agitated, they're in pain, they're in shock. They can even talk badly. Tutaona hata nyinyi mutaenda wapi. That is when you need all the grace, all the calmness, all the humility. Tell them it will be well. This is not the end of the road. In fact, you even may walk with them past that. Yes, they were involved in this happened. But if I find someone who is recruiting, I'll be quick. Facilitate them. You are not of course, you are the custodian of the culture, but there is the human. They have a family. If it's facilitating them, even in terms of giving them the certificate, you may not be able to, because you will not lie, to give a recommendation letter and say, Tabitha was our best staff, had no integrity issues. You may not be able to do that. But it is not your responsibility to go shouting to anybody, and then God data protection policy has come in place, and also the act. The decent thing you can ever do is to ensure they have done the entire clearance, encourage them, show the benefit, because of course some of them, because of the change, they will even resist. They'll throw things to you, they refuse to come and clear. Walk with them and tell them, once you do the clear, let's do a clean separation. You get your certificate of service. You can always show, because, in a certificate of service, there and tell the whole story of what transpired. And I'll pray for you and I wish you well. Me, I have met even with people and they say, oh, hi, Madam Rhoda, we were working with you in such a place. You remember? And when you remember how they left, you even terminated them. But they're even the one calling you and telling you, Rhoda, hi, how is? I understand you left. Where are you? They have no hard feeling. So it is hard. That is why we are learning change management system. We understand the transition process and we see how can we remain as human as possible. Of course, we don't want to keep on shifting blames and telling them it is not us. But how can we take ownership, accountability, so that we enable people to go through the grieving process and the entire process of the change. But never forget about yourself. Self-care, it is very critical. In HR, we receive the brunt of it. A lot of HR have even been disrupted, removed, brutalized, but never forget about yourself. And that's why I said, beyond that role, Tabitha, that you carry today, who are you? Always take time. I love my teenager son will keep on telling you, Mom, it's the day to do you. It is you. Do yourself. You are the walking brand. Be known as Lynette. Be known as Rhoda. I can see there is Rhoda, my colleague. Be known as Gershon. There is a person in you that you can never lose beyond, even when the world is giving way. Go for counseling. Look for support. Who are your board of directors that you work with? Because even these things we say, we are the people navigating, facilitating, enabling. Sometimes it will hit you hard and harder than even those people that you are navigating. So that is a very good point, Tabitha. Take care of yourself and never lose yourself wearing this hat of HR so much that you forget. Let's be good people to start with. Let's be good ambassadors. Let's support, but never forget to be you and to build your whole brand as you, but carrying all what you're doing in HR. Someone, Rhoda has said, Rhoda, are you? That's my namesake. Learn to detach. Sorry, I was reading her comment. She's saying, learn to detach from the official processes. Draw a line between your personal life and HR processes. Very true. I think these are words we never want to hear and admit coming from HR. And someone will say, what kind of a HR are you? Are you not committed to your organization? I can tell you one time I went to an interview, and that is when I learned. Of course, I was given the opportunity, but I had multiple offers, so I didn't pick it. And the CEO was mad. And she was a lady. You know what? One thing she told me, a CEO who is going to be your boss. And one of the things after the psychometric and the aptitude test, after going through 5 interviews, Of course, I didn't take offer because I think I had 3 offers and I took one of the best. She told me one thing, Rhoda, I'll tell you. Your organization, sorry, I'll give this with a disclaimer. It is not your mother, is not your father. You need to do you and remember. They told me one day, if your employer ever get tired with you, they'll not even think twice. You have your family, your life. Structure your family, work-life balance. And actually, she was very jealous because she wanted me to come to the organization because she was telling me there you'll have a lot of easy life. Why are you going to look for more challenges to ngangana with the union or this? Here it's a job that there's a lot of travels and exploration. It is not the hard work. You need to be smart. Leave an easy line. Draw a line. Would you imagine your prospective employer and CEO telling you, I don't want you to come and kill yourself to work. Draw the line. There are working hours. There are weekend days, your time. And she told me, don't lose yourself. So I resonate with what she has said. It is unpalatable coming from a HR. And that is always I ask you, who are you, Tabitha? Beyond that, I have seen organization, I can tell you, and even a very recent consultation that we are taking on. And I can tell you, it's a reorganizational review and realignment of the whole structure. And guess who is at the top of it? The one in charge of HR, the director HR, the CEO of the HR, the chief people. Of course, he's the one running all this and she's the one running all this. But I can tell you at the end of the tunnel, because I'll tell you there's what we call the formal and the informal discussion that goes on. Someone mentioned when you are doing internal consultants that there are some roles, not because you're not qualified, you'll not be allowed to do in your organization. You will look for a consultant because we already know the end in mind and what we want. And at the end of this, you might drive all that and you become the casualty at the end of the day. I can tell you for sure, the end product was, the target was that HR. And if it has not occurred, it will occur. Because you think when we sit here, you are the best mind in the industry and you're professional and you have all this. But the other people don't think that way. All right? Some people always tell me, it is good the way we are, and this is very ideal and very good. But kwa ground vitu ni tofauti. Never lose yourself, detach, and do you. Tabitha, those are my parting shot. Very powerful. Any other comment before we close? I know I'm eating in your time, but I'm here for you if you have time. But we have done whatever we need, maybe just to concern any questions, comments that you may have. Of course, Rhoda, again, she has had it, I think, that learn to detect when the employee is being overwhelmed by personal issues. Some employees create unnecessary drama over simple organization process because their work life is clouded with that unresolved personal issues. So unresolved issues, business, they come with burden to the workplace. We should be able to actually separate that as you are dealing. So that is why trying to find out, engaging, listening, you will be able to even get the unspoken. This happens a lot even when you come to performance management and we're having people having issues, complaints. I don't like the way I've been appraised. I don't like the way this has happened. If you go and find out and you truly investigate and you come and you say when you're giving those objective feedback, come up with examples and facts and you're able to pinpoint them. And those things will not continue. So thanks a lot. I think I can't see any mic that is on. I think I've read comments, maybe the ones that I've seen. Okay, following query I can get. Yes, you'll get the presentation it is in our the Academy's learning management system. Once you pay and just the way you logged in, that is where you'll get your certificates, and you'll also get these presentations, and you'll also get the YouTube footage of the entire video, just in case that you stepped out of your desk and you're not able to follow. All that has been recorded, and you should be able to pick that. For the people who've not been able to join us from when we began on Wednesday, it has been a marathon of series, which we endeavor to complete on Saturday. You can always get in touch with the Academy. You'll be able to get the slides. You can train yourself through the footage of this video that is going to be recorded, and you can always be able. Of course, there is a comment. The CHRP Business Partners, CHRBP, is composed of 8 modules. Namely, you can see there is comment from the Academy. Then, would you want? I'm through with the team. If you'd want to just take them through, then instead of me reading the comments. Okay, let me just read his comment. I can see he's unable to unmute. There's something on that has been posted on the chat by the Academy, the Certified HR Business Partner. We said these modules that we've been going through are parts and parcel of a certification course that we call, which we call CHRBP. The way you say your CHRM at the end of you can use those credentials as a CHRBP. And this certification course, it's actually a certification course, has 8 modules. And part of those modules that we will cover from Wednesday going through to Saturday, we'll only be able to cover about 6 of those modules. So it has other modules. The 8 modules is the internal HR consulting skills that we covered on Wednesday. It has communication and influencing skills that we covered yesterday. It has HR for finance for HR, where we now look at those financial statements and how you gain the financial acumen. It has the change management skills. It has a module on designing succession plans, which you're going to look at it tomorrow. It has managing talent. It has HR analytics. Those are 8 in total. So in this marathon, we are going to cover 6 of them. But the Den has a message that the cost for the online version of the whole certification, which is also examinable, and you'll sit for an exam. When you go for physical, we normally do a 3-hour exam, which is marked, and you have to pass with a particular threshold before you are certified. The online version of that, if you get in touch with the Academy, it's costing 45,000. The physical one costs about 60,000, and then you can be able to get the certificate for certification. But of course, doing the piecemeal modules that you are going to do for the CPD, what you'll get is the certificate of participation. So you need to notice the difference between the certificate of certification and which costs the 45 for the online version once you get in touch with the Academy, so that you are able to complete all the modules. If you come physical, I know this is being offered in Mombasa next week, if I'm right, and it costs about 60,000 for the same to do. So if you're interested in that, to do the entire CHRBP, then you can get in touch with the Academy just the way you registered for this, and you'll get more information from them if you're able to do that. So again, tomorrow I'll be with you to take on the next module, which I think is on designing a succession plan. And then for me, I'll have done all the modules that I had intended to do in this. And of course, I know there's another session in the afternoon for today and tomorrow, where you'll do the managing of the talents and also the HR analytics, which I believe will be taken through by Irene Miako. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow so that we explore this journey together. It is learning. Again, for those people who are interested in the training, I said this is a very good platform with CHR, with the Academy, that you can always get in touch with the Academy and you'll be given slots to do that. Because as you can see, Rhoda or Irene or the other trainers may not be available all. And you can see this is just a forum where you interact with what you've been doing every day. You are like, you are a practitioner or in this field. And I said, you don't have to leave your work. Those leave days that you have, if you're able to have a morning free, you can always get that so that you are able to improve your skills and talent and share with the other practitioners what you can do. So feel free to get in touch with the academy. Let's walk this journey together. Let's build each other. That is the best thing that you can ever. Let's grow our network together. So with me, thank you very, very much for giving me your attention, and my apology for the internet, which was misbehaving today. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Let's be here at 9 so that we are able to finish early and we continue to other businesses. So thank you very much, and do have a good afternoon.